It's 9 o'clock, damn it. Hello, friends. Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNradio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRNradio.
Are you ready to reach for the stars? Tune in to The Lost Wanderer, the #1 monthly podcast on good pods in astronomy. Join our host, Jeff, as he takes you on an interstellar adventure to explore the mysteries of space and the wonders of science. From rocket launches and distant galaxies to the latest discoveries in astronomy, each episode is a thrilling ride through the cosmos. Don't just gaze at the stars, come explore the universe with us. Follow The Lost Wanderer wherever you get your podcasts, and let's discover the stars together.
O'Reilly.
This is Derek's O'Reilly Auto Parts story.
After the third time jump-starting my car, I finally realized my battery was dying. So I stopped by O'Reilly to have it checked. They tested it right there in the parking lot. It was bad, real bad. But they helped me find the right battery for my car and installed it for free. Now my car starts like new.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
I'm Jordan Klinger, an attorney at McIntyre Law. The decision to hire an attorney after you've been injured is important. The decision on who to hire is even more important. At McIntyre Law, we will settle a case if the offer to our client is fair. Partial justice is no justice at all. At McIntyre Law, we are committed to obtaining full justice for our clients. Contact McIntyre Law at 405-917-5200 or visit us at mcintyrelaw.com.
Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy.
Achieving the goal before this decade is out of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the earth.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other thing, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same.
And happy Thursday evening, or actually, I guess closer to Thursday night now, huh? Welcome into the program, ladies and gentlemen. You are listening to Jen and Rick. Hope you guys are coming over to and joining us from the Culture Shift feed that just ended. They kicked ass and took names tonight, so congratulations to those two. Don't forget, after us, we'll be going straight over to the SHR media feed, where you can go into BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon, belly up to the bar, and get ready for last call, because they'll be our closing act for the evening. Remember, over there, the truth is never watered down, and neither are the drinks. Again, I'm Rick, she's Jen, and this is Jen and Rick, and you're neither of us, so you should be envious. More envious of her. She rocks. I'm just here.
Whatever.
Krypton. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, well, the Krypton baby had quite the weekend last weekend. I don't know if you saw.
I did.
But
I always see, but if I don't always react, but trust me, I see almost everything you post, unless I'm like dead to the world, like I was.
I didn't mean it in that way. I just meant, because it was a whole thing. So I didn't post about it right away because I was uploading some stuff, and also when you post on Sunday nights, it tends to kind of get lost. People are winding down. Not everyone's on Twitter, so and there are people that always want to see the updates, and they always ask me, but then I don't want to tag 30 accounts, so I'd rather just do it when everyone's there. You know what I mean?
I say tag them, especially if they're the ones always bugging.
It looks weird. It gets old. I don't know. And then because you have to tag them all together, they may not all be mutuals. And then everybody's commenting, and now they're in this super long thread where everyone's tagged. I'm like, I just don't like it. Anyways, whatever. Doesn't matter. I posted it on Wednesday evening. That he threw a no-hitter. This is his second or third, but it's getting better at this level. The level of play he's at with 11 and 12-year-olds, where people are really throwing. They're starting to have multiple pitches. They're having changeups. They're starting to get a little bit of a handle on a curveball. There's some more control in the speed and the placement and all of that. So it becomes a lot more impressive to see that kind of thing happen now than it was 2 years ago when he first started pitching, when most of the kids could barely be accurate across the plate. So they just got lucky if kids just swung at everything. This was a lot of strikeouts looking. So the stat lines were crazy, and that was really fun. And it was a great way for him to get back into baseball. So he's super stoked for the rest of the season.
Well, I'm glad. One, it looks like he's having fun. Two, he's kicking ass and taking names, which I wouldn't expect anything less from your progeny. And I kind of wish I was there to see it.
My husband made a little video, and it was like a compilation. He's a switch hitter, so compilation of hits from left and right, all from this weekend, like left and right, and then his pitching, and then quite a few of the strikeouts and everything. And then when he was playing shortstop, when he wasn't pitching in the next game, and some fielding moments, getting a bunch of outs. And he sent it to my father-in-law, his dad, and he was like, "Oh yeah, no, great. Things look good. Who's that little pitcher?" Because a lot of times, the videos are kind of grainy, and we had terrible weather for part of it, and so it was kind of dark and misty and cloudy, you couldn't really see very well. And we're pulling a lot of this off of the game camera that is set up on the fence, so it's not all my direct iPhone video, which would be more clear. So anyways, he just compiled all this. So his dad just thought he was showing him, look what Ben's team did this weekend. And then he was like, there's some great hits. And yeah. And so he's like, I saw him hit. That first one was a good crack. And then he was like, wait. And then he was like, so that was some good pitching. That was a good little pitcher. And he was like, Dad, that's your grandson. And he was like, oh my gosh, really? And then he was like, wait a second. Were all the plays at shortstop him too? And he was like, yes. He goes, holy crap. Okay. He's like, never mind me. I'm old.
I need glasses or better glasses.
But it is, if you don't know exactly what you're looking at, it is kind of hard to tell these kids apart on the field and their matching uniforms. There's body types and things like that, but it's grainy and just not always very clear. Anyways, So yeah, it's been fun so far. We head back to play some more ball this weekend. So
Very,
I'll
very
be
nice.
I'll be in baseball mom mode once again, which I love and I hate. I mean, I love it, but I hate the hours. I hate
Oh
when
no,
we
I get
have
it. My youngest was playing footballs for as young as he was allowed to play football where we were, which started in like fourth grade with flag football, and he played all the way through senior year. So yeah, I I get it. I mean, it's a little bit different for moms. I understand that, but it was still kind of rough for me too because I was always like scrambling around to be there after work and everything else.
Well, I love to see him play. I just don't always love that, when we have like an 8 a.m. game, but we have to be there an hour before the game and it takes us over an hour to get there. So a lot of times we're leaving at like 5:30, which means wake up call at like 4:30, 4:45. That I don't love. That I don't love.
See, that
But
is one thing because that never really happened with football, so I'm kinda glad there.
no, there's quite a bit of that. So anyways, yeah, like last weekend we were like, "Oh, sweet, the way we got seated on Sunday, our game was at 10 a.m." and it's like, "Awesome, we get to sleep in." And I'm like, "Hold up, wait a second. No, we still have to leave at 7:50, so y'all still gotta be up before 7."
It's like, "Nope."
Oh, well. But that's still better. That's better than getting up at 4. I'm good
I
with
was
it.
gonna say that's still 3 and that's still like 3 hours of sleeping in, so just saying, that's pretty good
Yeah, yeah, no,
compared to
it's a
most
lot
people.
better for sure. Anyways, so that's my life
But yeah,
now for the rest of the spring pretty much. I have a few trips coming up, but also just baseball mom.
so speaking of sleeping in, how you liking having a president who seems to never sleep?
Well, I think he needs to chill the F out because he's making the rest of us look bad.
Dude, I finally caught up with a friend of mine that I haven't talked to in like over 2 months and because there was like Southwest Airlines layoffs and everything else, and she works there. So I finally got a chance to text her today and we were talking for a while. She's like, "So how are you?" I said, "Well, I got really used to a president who was calling lids by 9 a.m. and tucked in with his tapioca by 1, and now I have one that doesn't sleep, which means I don't sleep either." So
Right.
yeah, fun. So yeah.
Oh, I know.
And
I
then
can walk away from Twitter for like 2 hours or the TV or whatever, and then I go to catch up, and all of a sudden there's another executive order, there's another statement, there's another this, JD's there, Trump is here, there's all this stuff going on. Statement has been made, and the French president is mad. Trudeau's always mad. It's like I'm like, wait, I've only been out of pocket for like 2.5 hours. How has so much stuff happened already? And I feel like I can never catch up.
I've discovered Macron actually does have the Napoleonic complex though. Because as soon as we were like, "Hey, y'all kinda take care of yourselves," he's like, "We must have wars and we must have them now." I was like, "What the hell?"
I'm
I
like,
mean, like,
"Oh."
within 5 minutes, he's, like, making this grand speech about how Europe must stand with Ukraine and there
I'm
must be
like,
no.
"Okay, Mr. White Flag,
I'm
sure."
like, dude, shouldn't you be off, like, cooking some frogs legs or something and leave the rest of it to the big boys?" Just saying.
I
But
mean, good luck motivating the French to go do much of anything if they don't want to. Having spent a decent amount of time in their country, they, don't take that very kindly. I'll just
well,
say that.
so here's the part that I don't think because I understand what they're doing. So for those of you who are wondering what's going on, Europe has been employing, much like we were until recently, the bread and circuses philosophy. We have reached the circuses portion of the program. So what's happening? Because a lot of the European Union folks are unhappy. They're dissatisfied about the government overreach, the censorship, and the being invaded. So they're trying to create a distraction for them. The problem that I have with this is with as many people that are not loyal to the European Union that are currently in the European Union, if they actually try to snap this thing off, they're probably going to get taken out from within. This is not a good plan. This is not a good plan at all, and I don't think it's gonna go the way they want it to go, because I know what they're trying to do. This is exactly what if you go back and look at the history books, this is exactly what the conspiracy theory was about Pearl Harbor, because we couldn't get involved in the war, so we orchestrated it so Pearl Harbor would get hit even though we knew, which is crap if you actually go back and look at the history. But that was the predominant history, and that's what everybody's thought. Well, the problem is Europe seems to be trying to do that now. They are trying to gin up a war with Russia so they have a common enemy again, so their people will stop bitching at them. and I don't think it's
Yeah.
going to work how they want.
No, the world works so differently now. We can't even get. I don't even know that you could get an alignment of anything like we saw back then in World War II.
I
I
don't.
mean,
No,
I
I don't
think
think so.
you'd still have half of these countries going, well, but actually the Jews. I mean, you know what I mean? Like that should have been an extremely easy call to make. They're exterminating millions of people. And I think if that were happening today, there would be just watch what happened at October 7th. Look at where the blame shifted. Look at where the, kind of world popular opinion went. Oh, yes, we feel bad for the families, but had they not just been dirty Jews, then maybe it wouldn't have happened to them. I mean, that was the overwhelming sentiment, right?
Well, and that's what drives me crazy is if you look at this.
Nobody clipped that, okay? Nobody clipped that.
Well,
Give me my full context. I'm gonna sound like the pie lady. Give me my full context.
But no, I mean, well, that's what drives me crazy, right? Because the same people that are like, this is actually Israel's fault are the same ones that are like, Ukraine didn't start this. And I'm like, can you pick a relevant side and stay there just once? Because
Yeah,
you
because
confuse me.
yeah, because you're right. Ukraine didn't start this. This is the situation that it is now. It doesn't mean we need to dump all of our money and resources and our bodies into it. But also, Israel didn't start that either. No, they didn't. So if you want to go back and look at how everything goes here, I mean, how many of the ceasefires have been broken and by whom?
No, exactly. But the
And why did there need to be a ceasefire in the first place? Let's go there first. Why did there need to be a ceasefire? Oh, I don't know, because they started a fucking war with Israel by kidnapping its citizens and murdering them in their homes.
Yeah.
It's just insanity.
So did you watch any of this? Well, I almost said State of the Union, but it wasn't technically a State of the Union.
I know it's not technically, but it's
I
essentially.
mean, well, it felt like one anyway because he just came out.
Well,
He
it's
came out
what takes the place of it. Well, it's what takes the place of it in a year in which there's a new president inaugurated. So they're not really giving a State of the Union because they're still becoming acquainted with the State of the Union. So they do a congressional address that is still a State of the Union-ish. So I watched clips. I wasn't able to be on the whole time. I had stuff going on. So that's also why I didn't join the panel. But it went kind of like I thought it would. The Democrats acted like petulant children. Trump invited some. I thought the picks of people to invite and highlight were good choices for the most part. And I think it exposed the Democrats as heartless ghouls because they had to sit there and sit on their hands and not applaud a child fighting cancer. Good
Dude,
Lord. How much more soulless
they
can you
were
get?
like cutting onions during that whole thing. I'm just saying. There was
I mean,
onion cutting going on in that whole thing. I'm just saying.
oh, and you've got Al Green, who absolutely provoked, and he meant to be thrown out. He wanted
He
the
said as
stunt
much.
to, he needed the victimization. He wanted to make the statement. He wanted to grab the headlines. That's, grifters do as grifters do. So that wasn't surprising at all. The people that were feigning shock about it online, I was like, are you new here? Have you ever been involved in politics? Have you ever seen how these people operate? And on both sides, though we see a lot more of the overly performative tantrum throwing from the left than we do from the right. The right does other stuff, but the tantrum throwing, the sit-ins, the handcuffing themselves, the getting security to throw them out, the heckling, all of that, that tends to be a more leftist kind of area of and how they approach these things and what the tools they utilize. It's agitation, 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 agitation. So they all do performative nonsense. Don't get me wrong. There's all kinds of theater on both sides, but there's just there's a lot more of that stomping and gnashing and tantrum throwing and wham, mommy, give me my binky happening on the left, particularly when Trump is present.
Well, it's funny that you should mention that. I have something I want you to see. Hang on. I don't know if you've seen this yet or not. So yeah,
Yes, I was unable to avoid that, unfortunately. But like I said to Bonchi over at Red State, I was like, um, are they doing the like fighting pose or are they trying to take a shit? Because it's kind of hard to tell the difference.
a little of
Especially a
both.
couple of them. They're really bouncing. I'm like, you need a squatty potty, honey? Is that what you need? Is it hurting? Oh, we got to get it out. Do we need some laxatives going here? I mean, several of you definitely do. You've got a perpetual stick up your ass. But what is this? It's about as cringy as all get out.
Did you see the White House's response video yet?
I did play it.
I gotta say, one of these things is not like the other.
No. Their hip back was pretty good, I thought.
And that's kind of I mean, look, again, we talked about it last week with the whole, Epstein list fail, but that's probably one of the only major errors I've seen from this administration within the first 46 days. And everything else, I mean, like this. I don't remember a time that an administration was that quick with punching back, especially basically taking something that looked totally cringe and going, hold our beer. Because we're actually in this case, hold our whiskey because we're actually going to do it cool.
Yeah, I think the digital team that then, collabs with the social media team has been pretty good so far. Some of the stuff has been, which is what, the Biden team tried to do when they hired their little girl out of who still had like on her LinkedIn, still had her high school accomplishments, like AP Bio on her LinkedIn, but when they hired her, but it just came off as a Gen Zer. It came off as childish, and it definitely was like, that is not Biden. We know it's not Biden or his team. It's not even anywhere close. And it just kind of kept, they kind of tried to do that, but it just kind of kept falling off. And they weren't very good at memes, of course, because the left can't meme. And they weren't very good at video production of any kind of the mashups or recreation of kind of any of those duet style type layover videos. They just were. I mean, my 92-year-old grandma can do some of that stuff. So, and I know she's an anomaly. She's amazing. She Instagrams, she Facebook, she texts, she can do all of those things. She makes flyers for her garden club, and she makes programs for the church, and she does. But what I'm saying is, she works within a sophomore program to do this, and then she adds she adds media files, and she's done it where she's done like presentations with videos integrated into them. And I mean, you hired people specifically for this and they couldn't get it done. All they could do was post a bunch of cringy tweets and responses and yes, girl. I mean, they really failed. So I love what the Trump team's doing because I feel like it is really savvy, but it's not coming off as like, ooh, we're trying to be hip and youthful. They're just hitting back with like really smart responses, really smart marketing, and very well produced pieces coming out.
Well, as a Gen Xer, I'm really happy to see most of his cabinet is represented by my generation because that's.
Well, I mean, it's about fucking time.
So, did you see this today? So, apparently, Marco Rubio has released a statement that the State Department will be revoking visas of pro-Hamas agitators that are here on student visas.
Good. That should be a stipulation.
I'm glad to see that's finally happening because that should have been happening a long ass time
I
ago.
don't want that to be the case for someone that's just at a protest, but if you are taking over the buildings, if you are impeding traffic, if you are participating in any of those where it goes beyond peaceful and into criminal territory, whether it's just criminal trespass or anything like that, then absolutely that should be part of the I mean, the other things that you can get kicked out for on a visa are pretty crazy. I mean, I don't know, like when the different countries have different rules, obviously, but there's a lot of them where like if you rack up too many parking tickets, your visa can be revoked. So I don't think it's outrageous to say that if you participate in one of these protests that gets out of control and you directly, do property damage, trespass, and harass or otherwise impede the flow of traffic or normal people walking. I mean, remember at Colombia, they like wouldn't let them walk certain ways, particularly not the Jews. They weren't allowed to walk through certain areas. They had to go all the way around, and that was egregious. So if you're participating in any of that bullshit, absolutely yank their visas. It's a
Another
privilege.
thing so another story that I thought was absolutely amazing, and I keep forgetting to touch on the afternoon show, and not amazing in a good way, is actually the story that's finally been released, that it turns out that Elon Musk could have gotten the astronauts down a hell of a long time ago, but Biden kept saying no.
I only saw a few tweets about this, and I didn't get to dive in very deep, but I've heard that it's actually been acknowledged though, right? That they
Oh, yeah,
said, "Yeah, it
it
could have happened, and we offered
it
our services, and they refused."
yeah, I
But everybody
mean
said over politics, and I'm trying to figure out the politics of what? Just the politics of Elon?
well, no, that's just it. Because by the time Elon was ready to step in, he was already actively supporting Trump. And Biden Biden was being Biden. I mean, it's the only, I mean, I I don't really understand it, but that's the common consensus is because he was already supporting Elon, Biden felt like Trump, it would have given Trump some kind of a win. I feel like there's got to be something else there, but it still doesn't make any sense to me about why, for whatever reason, you would leave people in space for a hell of a lot longer than they needed to be there when you've got
8 months when it was supposed to be 8 days.
it's
I mean,
all.
that's a year of a child's life that you're missing.
I mean, exactly. I mean, especially if you have, I mean, especially if you have kids or young kids or
But
grandkids or
it's
whatever.
one thing when you plan and you're like, "Okay, I'm committing to this. I'm going to the International Space Station and I'm gonna be there for 6 months, 12 months, 2 years," whatever it is. They've got different agreements and contracts for that. And those people have prepared for that. They know what's happening. They prepare their families. There's all kinds of provisions put in place for that to not be so difficult. But again, they've been prepared for it. They know that's what's going to happen. To think that you're going on less than a 2-week trip and then be gone for almost for 3/4 of a year is insane. Like that
It's,
that's just outrageous. That's why I'm with you though. Like I think there's something we're not being told. Like there's more to this story. And I don't know that we'll know it anytime soon. But
probably not.
that it just doesn't add up that it was simply, we can't figure out how to do it. Elon can, and I won't let Elon. I think there would be a much bigger outcry from the astronauts' families, from NASA, from just regular working people that after, okay, maybe a month, okay, maybe 2 months. But after, as it gets beyond that, if it was truly just the president saying, nope, won't do it, don't like the guy, he likes Trump, might hurt my chances in November, like, I just don't see everybody just sitting down and shutting up about that for that long.
No, I mean, well, that's the thing, because I remember when everybody first started talking about this, they were talking about how they were gonna have to do something specifically different because the something to do with the spacesuits weren't designed to interface with the SpaceX capsule or something. And now I guess it turns out that there, at least from what I'm hearing, there was a way to deal with that all along, and for some reason, they kept telling them that they were gonna wait, they were gonna wait, they were gonna wait. And I I mean, the only thing that I've been hearing is it was specifically because Biden didn't wanna give the Trump can a win, but that I mean, I
That's a
mean,
lot to sacrifice for that, and
you
could
would
have
think
really tanked him if the truth came out, if there was a whistleblower. Because even with that, like, okay, they weren't compatible, but even if that had been totally true, how is how is NASA not contracting out or within themselves? And I've had a couple of friends that have worked for NASA. I mean, there's still bureaucratic crap that goes on there, but there are a lot of really insanely intelligent people. And so how is there not some solution being made and any collaborative efforts that could be done with contracting through the private sector as well, which the government does all the time. Our military does it. So it's not like that would be far-fetched to do. I'm sure NASA actually does that on a pretty regular basis. So, how is this a thing? Like, we all think about because it was made into a pretty famous movie. We think about Apollo 13, and they figured shit out that was supposedly impossible within 23 hours or some crazy crap. So, how is it taking 8 months? And I know they're not in immediate danger, so there's not that kind of urgency as there was with that other mission that I mentioned before. And I'm not comparing the two. I'm just talking about I'm simply talking about um, all the brain power that there is. So that's why I don't know much about it, and I would have to read a lot more on it if there is any true available info to understand what the hell was going on there.
Sorry, I didn't realize I was muted. I'm sitting here trying to talk. I'm like, I can't hear myself in my ears. But no, I mean, that just seems like a really weird thing for me. I mean, I get that by that point, Biden had pretty much, figured out he wasn't going to be around anymore one way or the other. So he was basically, throwing gold bars off the Titanic, setting all kinds of landmines no matter who won, which is part of the reason why our economy is going so nuts. But here's the thing. Everybody keeps saying it was Biden. Everybody seems to forget that that man didn't really know where he was from one minute to the next. So most likely, whoever was running stuff behind the scenes may have been being a total tool about it. If what we're hearing is accurate, and I still have questions about that, so I'm still looking for other sources until I say anything one way or the
Yeah,
other.
I'm gonna wait for a little bit to see what comes out about that because sometimes when there's stuff like that, where you're like, okay, that just seems too ridiculous. Often it is. There are times where it's not. There are times where things really are just that absurd. But a lot of times it's like, okay, that makes a little more sense. There's a little bit more explanation here.
No, I mean
Um,
you're
oh, there was another. Oh, yeah. Have you've seen the one of the other Bidens with their
Oh, you mean the hat in hand
woes
Biden?
are?
Yeah. You mean the hat in hand Biden, the guy who suddenly figured out that nobody wants to buy his art or anything anymore? So he's broke.
It's weird how it suddenly became unpopular once it couldn't actually paying for some bullshit art by a crackhead didn't actually give you proximity to power. It's almost like that was the only reason they were doing it. See, these were just donations, basically, so that they could get favors from your dad, the prez. Um, but yeah, the can't even afford to litigate his civil cases. I mean, give me a
Well, I mean, come
break.
on.
Let's release the text.
He
I want to see what the big guy
he's
thinks.
gotta save his money for the snow. I mean,
I mean, yowzas.
especially now that he has to buy his own. He doesn't have political influence to sell anymore, so none of his friends are like, "Hey,
I
man, I
mean,
got some flake for you."
I mean, I think, but I don't know. I mean, they're probably still footing some of the bill. They just don't want to pay his legal fees. But yeah, I just whining about it, and I loved that, like this article said, the left pretended that Hunter had some talent, either as a lawyer or later as an artist. We were told his paintings were indeed worth thousands of dollars, in fact, worth hundreds of thousands. But Hunter's only talent was running interference for his corrupt dad. When Joe Biden became an afterthought of
They've
January
traveled
20th,
out.
Hunter Biden became
Sorry, I was
irrelevant
just
to the
saying bye
grift machine. I mean, yeah, hundreds of thousands of dollars in his crackhead paintings.
now. Dude,
Oh,
my 5-year-old granddaughter does better with paint by numbers.
but I mean,
I'm just saying.
if even as a minor, when Barron was still a minor, if they had been like, "Oh, he loves to draw, and we're gonna put up some of his artwork for sale to fundraise," they would have lost their ever loving minds about it. I mean, they would have criticized it
1,000
relentlessly for sure. But they would
1,000%.
have, I mean, they would have just gone ape shit about, "Oh, he's not a real artist," and been like, "Oh my gosh." I mean, I don't know. I can't think of Hunter Biden as anything more than a drug addicted kindergartner. So, um, a really ugly one. with man parts, unfortunately. Well, we think. We don't really know, I guess.
Well, I mean, the whole
Well, no, we do actually.
I
No,
gotta
we
say, we know,
do.
we know, we
Damn
know.
it.
There are
Gosh,
pictures. Thanks
I
for
had
reminding
tried
me.
to
There are
erase
pictures.
that. I know. I tried.
You do remember the kind of memory I have, right? You just made that flash right through my head.
I had successfully blocked that out until the words came out of my mouth, and then I was like, "Oh shit, we do know." And now I'm remembering it all over again, and that is not anything I ever need to think about.
Just just
Ugh.
focus on just focus on the boa till it stops.
Oh no. No, 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 no.
You're welcome.
Oh my goodness.
But I mean, think about this for a second. They have whether they realize it or not, they have just proven to be true everything that we've been saying about Hunter Biden and the Biden family for forever. They were using his art and his speaking and his access to corporations to sell access to Joe Biden and the Biden name. Because now that it ain't worth anything, speaking of which, nobody else look at anything. We've hit our magic number. We are at 420. Nobody else hit the button. Just saying. Perfect number has been achieved.
Which is also the date of Easter this year, by the way.
Oh yeah, I know. Everybody's been talking about it.
Oh boy.
When you realize that Jesus' resurrection will be celebrated on 420 day.
Oh yeah.
All right, you bastards cannot follow directions. We've already gone past 420.
That's fun though. What else? Man, there was something else I was going to talk to you about. I need to look at my bookmarks and see if it was what it is. Oh, you see that the Tates left.
Oh yeah, they left because Florida AG were.
You know, they were staying for however long they wanted to, and then they were all, "Ooh, you're not going to be able to run us off. We are here, and this is our home," and yada yada yada. And then investigation announced based on pretty credible things, including video and audio out of their own mouths. And then all of a sudden it was like, "Well, y'all can never keep us out, but we got to go. Bye. See you in 2 years, Florida." Like,
we're American citizens. You can't make us leave. Bye.
I mean, oh, these idiots. These absolute disgusting idiots. Anyways.
Which that was one of the things that drove me nuts with the left's argument with the Tates. Look, I can't stand either one of the Tates. And I know people that, are like, well, I still think they say some relevant things occasionally. No, they don't. They're playing caricatures on fucking line, and I hate people that do that. And it annoys the shit out of me. But at the same time, one of the things that drove me the most crazy about the left was when this story broke. They're like, oh, he's deporting all these people that are supposedly dangerous criminals, and now he's importing them too. I'm like, he can't import them. They have dual citizenship. They are American citizens. We can't keep them from
not
entering
only that, like,
unless we strip their citizenship.
Not only that, but I don't think Roger Stone, claiming victory for like some sort of action and getting them to the States means anything about Trump's intentions about the Tates. Like, I'm sorry. And then I thought it was funny. Oh my gosh, did you see it where they were like, oh, screw DeSantis and his AG? Oh yeah, it was the Tate Brothers account. That's like a sort of a fan account, but everybody knows it's one of them that runs it, right? And
Yeah.
it's not like their individual accounts. There's one that's like called Tate Brothers fandom or something. They know it's them. And anyways, it was like, yeah, I'm not gonna you know, got mad about DeSantis and like he's not supported Trump, and then also, all these authoritarian measures, which is why we are going to support what's his name that's running, Byron McDonald.
Yeah.
We're going to support him. And then he came out and said, yep, nope, no room in Florida for y'all here from me either. And then they were like,
They're like, damn it.
It was
Damn it.
hilarious. I was cracking up. I was like, oh man. I mean, he tweeted like within 2 minutes. He didn't tweet at them, but within 2 minutes of them saying that, he tweeted out and was like, I agree with Governor DeSantis.
Well, I mean, the only thing I'm going to say to the right is if we not learned our lesson from people like Joe Walsh and, Candace Owens and all the rest of them that We eventually figured out we're only here for the grift, and as soon as the winds changed, their grift went with them. Have we not learned? We talk
I
about
know.
the left never learning anything.
This one
I
is
feel like there are people from
completely
the right
embarrassing.
that I feel like there are
Yeah.
people from the right that never learn anything either. Because I'm like,
Well,
look, I get it when you get excited when like cool people are carrying your message, but maybe you should make sure they espouse all of your message before you're like, oh, look what they just
I
said.
I also don't understand how they were ever seen as cool. Like they are two ugly little butt chins. Like what is happening here?
I don't
Like
know.
what? Like
I
what is going on? That somehow they've convinced people they are the epitome of manhood and alphaness. Like what? Gross. Anyways, um, but also I think there's a problem on the right with like the knee
excuse me,
jerk.
sir. Excuse me, sir. That's ye to you. Just kidding. Keep going.
Oh yeah, and Kanye. But there's this problem of being like, because the left rejects something, then we have to embrace it. And because they must be fundamentally wrong. No, sometimes both sides get it right and are like, no, fuck those guys. Like that can be true. It's really okay. You don't have to defend something just because the left is anti that. Like that's we say that to them all the time about stuff on the right. Like you can admit that so and so has made some good points and they're like, the honest ones will be like, yeah, I mean, kind of hard to hate the guy. This is, but I think we do this a lot where it's like, well, we have to defend them and then use things like all this legal jargon as if that applies to public opinion, like due process. Well, they're getting fucking due process. That's what an investigation. No, that's a witch hunt. That's a fishing expedition. Um, I don't think you understand what those things mean. And also, by the way, like, what, how are you supposed to get someone to a court? um, how are you supposed to file charges, get them to a court, and let them, quote unquote, have their day in court through due process if you do not conduct an investigation? And in order to conduct an investigation, you usually have to announce it in order to be able to coordinate all the agencies involved because for them, it's a lot of different people. It's not like it's just in one county in one place and that's the only, so it's just that small little police department that needs to know about it. That's not how that goes. That's not how it works for them. So we're talking about federal, international, and state, and county, and city agencies all needing to coordinate together. So, anyways, I feel like there's always this knee jerk that like, well, uh, and that's your way of kind of like sticking it to the libs. And I'm like, we just really don't need to do that. You don't. They're terrible. They are not worth defending. They are getting due process. I don't know what shit's happening in Romania, and I don't really care. Not my problem. That's their problem. I know that there's 300 pages of court documents, and I've read uh, not even 4 or 5 of them, and read enough to be completely repulsed and know why they were trying to charge them there. So that's just like we just really don't have to say anything. You do not have to defend them here. No one was automatically deporting them. No one was showing up at the airport and putting them directly in jail without any any evidence or anything like that. That would be without due process. They were getting due process and there was a shit ton of the Tim Pool-esque right that was arguing that all yesterday and all today and looking as stupid as fuck, even though they claim to be constitutional scholars, which is hilarious.
Well, I do want to touch on one other thing real quick because since Kanye was brought up, there's an entirely different level to the whole Kanye thing that drove me absolutely insane. Because as soon as he started jumping out everywhere and saying Jesus is Lord, our damn pastors started talking about him in the church. And that was when I stopped going to that church.
Ooh,
Because look, I get it.
that's
You
unsettling.
want to try to reach the younger kids. I understand that, but you need again, just like with politics, you need to vet the people that you're getting your information from because you can't always trust everybody. If anything, the Tea Party movement taught me that because almost everybody that I used to look up to that was part of the Tea Party, as soon as the wind started shifting and the money started drying up, they jumped sides. I mean, hell, we've got people that used to be Tea Party folks that are openly advocating for transgenderism now. There is
No.
no way that just in a few short years their ideals have changed that much unless there is something completely broken with them or unless it was all a grift to begin with.
And I
And
think
that pisses me off.
that there are some people, everyday folks, where it truly is that, and it's mainly one person broke their brain. Trump broke their brain. and they felt like they so had to go the opposite way, that they convinced themselves that these other things were part of being, true to their conservative values somehow, some way, or at least libertarian, independent-ish values. Because they'll all say, "Well, I don't like either party now. I'm an independent, except for I'm totally anti-Trump, so I'm not really that independent." My entire political
Yeah,
identity is being anti-Trump.
I used to hate abortion. Now I like it. I used to think transgender was
Yeah,
bad. Now I
because, well, actually, and I'm like, okay, but not everything is wrong because he does it. You even have some people that you and I both don't particularly care for and have not been great to a bunch of the people we know in our circle that I'm like, at least they're honest about that. Like, they will give Trump props on pro-life. They will give Trump props on immigration. They will they don't like the guy. They actively have been denouncing him since the second he came down the escalator. And at least they're a little bit honest about some of that.
But I mean that whole thing just drives me absolutely insane because how broken do you have to be? I mean, I don't mean to nerd out for a second, but this reminds me of the scene in Star Wars Episode 3 where Anakin starts shifting to the dark side and he thinks he's on the right side and everything he's doing is for the right reasons. And I feel like
Yeah.
that's what's going on with so many people that used to be on our side. They legit think they're fighting on the right side, and we're looking at them like, "Have you lost your fucking mind?"
Yes. No, and I think a lot of the normies that has exactly happened. I mean, it is, and they all feed each other just the way they think that MAGA feeds itself, and it does. And there's all this kind of like culty aspects to it. And then the rest of us are looking around going, "What the fuck is wrong with all of y'all?" I mean, what has happened here? I don't get it.
Yeah,
I
I
like
mean,
that what Kevin said too. He said, "I'm more concerned about those who are Tea Party and turned into let's run bigger deficits." And
well,
ain't
that's because
that the damn truth?
that's because they got a hold of the bank cards.
Some of it though is it's not even just getting hold of the bank cards. It's that the way to amass more power and to keep relevant and stay in power is to keep asking for bigger checks to be written for whatever reason for any little thing. Head that committee, get those funds.
Well,
Um,
it's not just that. You gotta realize some of those funds that they're calling for go right back into the pockets of the people that can help keep them in power.
yeah, yes, yes, some of it does, but I mean, it's all of that. They realize real quick, and that's part of the problem of the government being so big is that it's going to be almost impossible to get away from that without slashing a whole lot of shit.
Did you hear between Elon and I can't remember his name. It's like right in front of me, but I can't remember his name. But there was Elon and there was a senator who was talking about that we currently have in the government more credit cards than we have government employees by double
Insane.
with like $10,000 credit limits. So then Elon was like, "Oh, we'll just start cutting off the ones that, we don't show have had much activity lately." So then a judge said, "No, you can't do that." So then somebody in charge of those cards went in and reset the limits to $1.
Oh no.
All I'm saying is, look, and I get it. A lot of folks are panicking because they are running the government the same way that new CEOs come in when they take over a corporation and they're like, "No, we're shutting everything down until we review it." And that's honestly what happens even in big businesses. They will shelve everything until they look over it, and they will
Yes.
shut everything down, and it causes chaos, and it drives people crazy. And that's why they're like, "I can't believe they told these people to go home," and then 3 days later, they're like, "No, go ahead and come back." And I'm like,
So this
"You
is
have."
exactly like my dad made a living off of this. Like he started a firm with a couple other partners. Um, he's a CPA, CFO, someone who has been a longtime CEO, has started multiple companies and sold them, and then a lawyer. And they had worked together on several different things, and so they ended up starting a firm. And that's what they would do. They would come in and take over take over businesses that needed restructuring, that were going through mergers, that were going through bankruptcy, that were being sold, that were like all the things. And that's exactly what would happen. They would install themselves into the top positions of the company temporarily while they cleaned house, looked at the books, figured out what needed to be done, and they put everybody on pause except for a couple essential employees that they may have needed in order to facilitate that. And then they'd bring them back in and Usually there was a decent amount that were then let go, but some stayed. But that was literally a major. I mean, they worked all around the country and the world doing that, and that's how I got to go to college, was because my dad started that firm when I was in high school. um, but that I mean, that is exactly how it works. Like, that's exactly what happens. There's not really a better way to do it. And usually it was kind of looked at as like, okay, shit's about to hit the fan, but y'all go take a couple days, you know, y- just take a couple days off and then we'll regroup here in a few and let you know what's going to happen. And that's
Well,
what they
yeah.
did.
So this is how I know this is how things are done. Because when I started my company years ago, when I first started growing, there were along the way 3 smaller firms that wound up selling to me because they didn't want to run them anymore. So I would send a team in, figure out what contracts they had, what staff they had, whether we had any duplications, and we would put everything on pause other than the bare minimum to keep the contracts until we figured out where the duplication was, cleaned house, and then finished the merger. I did that 3 separate times in 10 years.
Yeah.
So I know this is how this stuff works. And I know it's not how things are supposed to work in the government, but that's another thing that drives me crazy is all of these government morons that have been like, well, I knew this was how things were in the private sector, but I never in a million years thought it would be this way in the federal government. We're broke. What the hell do you expect us to do?
I also thought the ones where they totally betrayed themselves for never having really experienced real life when so many people even like especially congressmen and government and see some of them know better. They're just selling the narrative, but we're saying things like whenever it was like, oh, they only gave them 2 hours, like 2 hours notice, and they had to pack their desks and go, and I'm like, bitch, you lucky you got 2 hours notice. A lot of times when you're let go, they pack up your shit for you. They walk you directly to the door with security, and then they meet you outside with your box.
Dude, that was I did that from every aspect.
I
I
mean, it
have been
depends on it depends on what kind of company you're working for. It depends on what kind of levels of securities that they need. Obviously, that's not happening in a damn restaurant, but I'll tell you what, if someone was like, you know, even with someone like putting in their 2 weeks at a place like that that involves cash, I'm like, no, okay, good. Then your last shift is today. You can go.
well, yeah, so, that's the thing.
No
I
warning. No warning.
I I have done that from the position of the security doing the escorting. I have done that as a person who was leaving, who was escorted out, and I've done it as a team leader who had to
Right.
walk with the security to walk them out. That stuff usually happens normally by the end of the at the end of the day, and it is usually done within like the last 5-10 minutes of a shift. You get called up, you sit down with the team leader,
Yep. This
or
is
you
what's
call them up.
happening.
And be like, this is what's happening. Here's your paperwork. You got to go. We monitored this call, and this is how it goes. We can't keep you, and they're gone within 10 minutes right before the end of their shift.
Right. And obviously there are different companies and stuff where, they may allow you to go say your goodbyes and pack up your desk. There may be ones where like the layoffs were coming and they know about it and you're not really laid off till Friday. Like there are going to be different circumstances to that in some regards, but for the most part, everybody has either witnessed, been a part of, or had it happen to them themselves of a layoff or a firing or a downsizing, whatever they want to call it, and be immediately gather your things and go. So having 2 hours is wildly generous,
Yeah.
actually.
Well, I mean, the other thing that I found was insanely generous, and people were like freaking out about it, was being told, "Hey, if you go ahead and just tell us you don't want to work here anymore, we'll pay you to stay home for 8 months."
Yeah.
I wish somebody would have offered me that gig. I'm just saying.
Be like, hello, por favor.
But yeah,
I mean,
no,
I will say the only people that I have felt, um, it's being rectified as far as I've heard more recently. The only people that I felt actually really bad for, I mean, I don't want people to have massive job loss. There's a lot of people that work in the government that are not a part of the machine that is making all of the big bad decisions and blowing all our money. They're just a part of it. I mean, they're doing their little job in their little corner and whatever. And some of them may be very inefficient. That's still on leadership, not totally on them. But there's a lot of good people just working a job, getting through the day and getting their paycheck. And so I never want there to just be like, oh my gosh, lost job. Now what am I going to do? Am I going to lose my home? Is my kids going to be able to go to school? All of that. I don't like the human aspect of it, but it is a part of life and it's not unique to just these people. And I think that's what's been so infuriating is hearing it treated as if this is such an isolated, unique situation that no one's ever been through before. And it's like bullshit. And we've been treated way more callously. But the other thing that I did feel bad for was the people that have been remote and then were demanded to come back in. Not the ones that were originally in office, the ones that were hired out of office. And there apparently is being some recourse on here because they were told they could live wherever because they were
Yeah.
hired as a remote job. So, and initially when they did that, they were told you have to come into or you're fired. And they're like, I live in fucking California. I can't get to the office in DC. You know what I mean? Like that's not okay. When they were hired that way, that's a completely different story. But even like with my husband, he is now full-time work from home. I mean, permanent work from home after what he went through with his company over COVID. So they can't make him come back. But even with that, it's like there were people they could have made initially, like what his job when he was sent home come in, but they couldn't make people that weren't. But he had to notify them if he was going to move locations. And I read a little bit more, and these
Yeah.
people did too. They had to get approval from their managers to say, we're going to go move to where my in laws are instead of staying in the Virginia area. We're going to go move where my in laws are so we can raise our kids around their grandparents. And management had to approve that they were moving locations and IPs. So it's not like this was all a lot of people were portraying it as they were being sneaky and trying to get away with something and like, oh, too bad, shouldn't have moved. It's like, that's not really how all of that usually works. But those are the people
That's
that I
not
feel
how.
bad for that kinda got screwed at the very beginning, but it looks like I read an article yesterday in the business, section of the New York Times that they are rectifying that. They are giving allowances for people that were in specific positions and were hired for actual remote work, and they're gonna work with them on how they handle it. So that's good to hear. Which is what I figure. Let everything settle and they'll get it sorted. It's just gonna be a little bit of chaos for a little bit. It's gonna be a kind of a clusterfuck. But once the dust settles,
Oh yeah.
they'll figure out how to make this best work.
But sometimes chaos isn't necessarily a bad thing. Unfortunately, we have
I
reached the end of our time together, man. Where can folks find you?
I'm on Twitter at J Homestead and pretty much everywhere else at J Homestead and then Mischief tomorrow night over at Misfits Politics.
That's right. Two screen night here on KLR Radio. Make sure you're hanging out with Misfits, or tomorrow night, make sure you're hanging out with Misfits Politics too. As for me, I'll be simulcasting from the SHR Media Crew here in just a moment, and we're going to go belly up to the bar in BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon here in about a minute and a half. I'll be back tomorrow afternoon doing the Rick Robinson Show, back tomorrow night doing He Said, She Said with Aggie Rican, and after that doing Going Mental with John Katz, because in case you've missed the memo, my name's Rick. I'm a workaholic, and my last meeting was forever ago. We'll see you guys tomorrow because you won't hear anything from me until then. But we'll still be running boards for about another 2 hours. So have a great night.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. Hello, friends. Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRN Radio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRN Radio.
You're listening to Late Night Radio on the SHR Media Network. Caution, there will be mature themes explored and potentially adult language used. If conservatarian words, phrases, certain concepts, or rhetoric offends you, tune out now.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same. And if you and I don't do this, then you and I may well spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it once was like in America when men were free.
I have come here to chew bubble gum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubble.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to BZ's Saloon, BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, where I am broadcasting from a free state, an actual free state in the Union. It's a great thing. It's a wonderful thing. I love the hell out of it. Best thing I ever did. Getting the hell out of California, always spell it with a K. Who am I? I am your conservative Sherpa. Not my conservative. I am your conservative Sherpa. Guiding you through the maelstrom of Democrat, leftist, globalist lies, chaos, deceit, and betrayal. I do it with bombast. I do it with shenanigans. I do it with rings. I do it with people that listen to the show. Look at all the people in comments. We will all get to you. And I just want to remind you. Okay, what you're about to hear for the next 2 hours or so, I guaranteed I have more stuff. More stuff that I can shake a dead cat at. Even swirl it around with the tail. Okay, what you're going to hear for the next 2 hours consists of my opinion and my opinion only. And what am I doing? I'm doing the job that the American media maggots fundamentally refuse to do. I am foundationally changing America one leftist diaper doper baby Dobermans. Diaper doper. Hey, I screw that up all the time. We don't water our drinks just like we don't water our conversations, because we are still serving stiff drinks in the saloon along with facts, history, logic, rationality, proportion, context, tradition, clarity, common sense for people like you and me. Politics, religion, crime, culture, race, sex, economics, science, law. We talk about it all here in the saloon, where the speech is free, but the booze is not. And I have got a great show for you tonight. And so for all of you, let me see if I can find this, and then I can show you where we all are. This is where we all are right now, broadcasting. We are on Spreaker. We are on, later on you can hear us on Spreaker, Apple Podcasts. We're on Facebook Live. We're on Twitch, my X, at BZ Saloon, on Rumble, at the SHR Media Rumble channel, and the SHR Media YouTube channel live, and also on KLRN Oklahoma. Boy, that dates me just a little bit. No one wants to date me or prune me either way. So anyway, thanks for everybody being here tonight. Jeremy Hansen is here so far. He's very kind. Look. He says, hello, sir, and he capitalizes, sir. What a wonderful guy. Sean Lewis, who has his own damn show, okay? Edge of Liberty. If you were on that precipice was too long, so he didn't want to call it Precipice of Liberty. He wanted to call it Edge of Liberty, and that's his show. Edge of Liberty, right there on the precipice, not exactly going over, but he can see it from there. Also, Lost Wanderer is in the room. Also, Licky Labinson. Hey, motherfuckers. Welcome to you and to JEWF. What the holy? Okay, I'll just pretend like I didn't see it because otherwise I won't be able to put up with the. Oh my God! Put up with the pressure. The pressure is on. The pressure is on. The pressure is on. I wonder who the pressure is on these days. So I'm kind of curious. You ever take a moment these days to kind of stop and ponder, to cogitate a little bit, a little introspection, a little self-examination? And in doing so, do you ever ask yourself the question, wait a minute, how did we get here? Because asking that question is not really too terribly far from doing something that the Lost Wanderer does, trying to envision an infinite universe. Okay, so try wrapping your head abyss around that. Let's say the universe only goes this far, and then all of a sudden there's a brick wall. And then what's beyond that brick wall? So how did we get there? Well, it didn't happen overnight. And I am a student of history. And I know predominantly how we got here. I would say it happened over the course of about the past 80 years, from essentially the end of World War II, the Greatest Generation, the Marshall Plan, from Eisenhower. And for those of you not in the know, you're going to have to look this shit up. Some of the names, James Jesus Angleton, from Allen Dulles, and all points in between. Involving accumulated power, expanding government, little to zero government monitoring, almost none, indifference, distraction, bread and circuses, closed curtains, absolute opacity, and a huge damn slathering of kabuki theater of the absurd. And then because of the confluence of events, the Democrats hadn't anticipated at all, that is to say 2016, and the absolute demolishment of Hillary Clinton. I'm going to make up an assload of words tonight. I just sense this coming, where she was certain she was the best, the next guaranteed big thing. The absolute worst scenario occurred. She lost. No one could conjure that. How the hell did that happen? To Donald John Trump, OMB, Orange Man Bad, the guy with the dead orange cat on his head. How could that possibly have occurred? So seconds, literally seconds after that, the Democrats became completely untethered. And they've only gotten worse, much worse. So tonight, the theme of the show, by the way, it is OMG. It is March. It is Thursday, March 6th already, 2025. How did we ever get through January, through February? Let's see, it tried to catch me. And then we're in March already in 2025. That in and of itself is kind of nuts. So the Democrats, we're going to talk tonight about the Democrats. They're nuts. Europe, they're nuts. Some kind of bad stories. And then, please, God, please, if there is a God, let me get to happy stories, because I've got so damn many of them. Ooh, beer nights. But the cool thing about this is that ever since the show has kind of been technologically upgraded after I exited California, always spelled with a K, and I landed in a free state, North Idaho, where I am right now, that technology has allowed me to explore things that heretofore I've been primarily unable to present in a way that was satisfactory, that was pretty much okay to me. And now all I do is simply present the information that I've gathered and allow articles and photos and graphics and that kind of stuff that I found to buttress all my points and my issues and my articles. I have never made things up with the internet at my phalanges. I don't have to make anything up. I simply grab all the salient little articles that I can find, the important graphics, and let the Democrats what I call the DLG, the Democrats, leftists, and globalists speak for themselves in their own words. That's best. Their own videos. Would you suspect that I may have a few of those tonight? As we've seen, and again, I will illustrate tonight, the Democrats are completely unhinged. Man, they are lost. They are blathering, babbling baboons, which is an actual insult to baboons. So sorry, dudes and dudettes. There isn't one positive thing that they can say about America. Because if they do, they, as far as they're concerned, are tacitly admitting that whatever President Trump is doing is working. No bueno. Can't go. Won't go there. And trust me, Democrats will never, ever, ever accede or ascribe anything positive, any positive accomplishment to Donald John Trump. That's not going to happen. And they don't care who has to die behind that. And how nuts and how crazy is insane is that? Because now it's not just anathema. I mean, President Trump obviously lives in their heads 24/7, but it's in their DNA now. Their deoxyribonucleic acid. How did I ever remember that? That's how deep the derangedness, new word there, goes. Way deep, very deep, because nowhere was this best illustrated than President Trump's address to Congress just 2 days ago, Tuesday, March 4th. Let me stop for a second. Let's catch up with the comments here. Kabuki Theater. That's a good one. Mission Ready Men is here. Good to see you. Big E in the house. Acknowledgement for Big E. Big E is an important guy, by the way. Stop. I told you, stop right there. Let's go over here. I usually do this in the promos, but Big E is this guy right here. Mission Ready Men. Okay. And in promos, when I go there, I also show that, well, he is on the SHR Media Network. He is on Tuesdays and Thursdays, 9 a.m. Pacific. He's an AM kind of guy, 11 a.m. Central and noon Eastern. Okay, so I hope you guys have that. And I haven't shown this in a long time. You can get shirts from him. Okay, Fat Guy got a shirt right here from 7 Armors, and you can too. So the people that I talk about are great people, and they are ones that I promo. So mentioned E in the comments, so I had to make sure that I did that as well. And so the little kids that were there in the chamber on Tuesday they behaved like not even adolescents. They behaved like infants with little paddle signs, pink pussy dresses, yelling and screaming, no applause anywhere at any time, except for the weirdest damn thing. Except when Elizabeth Warren was called Pocahontas by Trump, and she applauded for what? I never figured this out. She applauded for what? Herself? Being called Pocahontas? I don't get that. Then they came out with the videos, and we're going to get to those. Don't think that I'm going to ignore them because, oh, God, no, I'm not going to ignore them. Not tonight. I'll show you those. Plus, if you didn't think there was an original predicating video from which they thieved, I have that too. So just beware. The rest of this show are going to have some F and S words, and they're probably going to have a word played by somebody else that not a lot of people enjoy. And like I say, caution. There are some bad words in there, but as per normal, I primarily don't give a shit about that stuff because they're just words. You'll see the circumstances. You'll get it. You'll grok that concept. I trust you. Because these assholes can't clap for a little kid with cancer getting some wishes made true. They can't applaud for having snagged the terrorist responsible for killing our beloved soldiers pulling out of Afghanistan. They can't applaud for survivors having their loved ones acknowledged for giving up their lives for the United States of America. They can't applaud for a guy getting an appointment to West Point. They can't applaud for the border being closed. Doge looking to actually save some of our hard-earned American dollars. You can't find it within yourself to applaud the good things, and there are great things that are happening in the United States right now. No, none of them could. It was all prearranged, just like the kerfuffle with the poor Al Green, the black Al Green, the elderly Al Green, the infirm Al Green with the cane being unceremoniously kicked out of Congress by the evil racist Republicans. Not like that shit was scripted or anything. The once united American media maggots are now sundering on the Democrats. Okay, so it's time for this. Let's pull this up. I believe I have it somewhere. Here we go. From Politico, insider poll, the Democrat Party has lost its way. From the Wall Street Journal, Democrats in disarray as Trump pushes through agenda. New York Times, we have no coherent message. Democrats struggle to oppose Trump. So even, this is glorious, this is grand, even James Carville said, I dedicated the best years of my fucking life to this party only to see it taken over by a bunch of stupid motherfuckers. Everything's gone to shit. And you know what, Jimmy, you're right. That's quite accurate. He nailed it because he has historical perspective. He doesn't have historical, what I call historical Alzheimer's. I have Alzheimer's. I'm getting dementia, but I don't yet have historical Alzheimer's. I still remember some crazy stuff. Of course, when the Democrats were not completely psychotic, paranoid, irrational, bughouse, and batshit crazy like they are now. Now, also, I got to give kudos where kudos are deserved. I listened to Ricky Robinson this morning at KLRN. Damn it, Jim, I don't have a KLRN logo. I told you I got to get one of those. Son of a bitch. Well, he brought up an interesting point that I have brought up before, and I'm glad to see that other people who are conservatives and or conservative / libertarians or are what I call, I'm kind of a little, there we go. I actually did it right. Look, little L libertarians like me, because I don't believe in open borders and hot and cold running drugs. But it's good to see that all the people that are on SHR, et cetera, are all getting together and making a point that we can never afford to forget. And that's it. All right. We took a victory lap with Trump's win. Yeah, who wouldn't? We took a victory lap or 2 or 3 or 4 with Tuesday's speech. And obviously, we were laughing like bastardos over the risible antics displayed by Democrats afterwards because, it goes back to the old thing. You can't write this. Yeah, they're morons. They are being run by the far left contingent of the party. Most everything that they've embraced is just, well, let's just say I have no problem saying it. It's fundamentally evil at its core. Evil, big E. The movie, and to watch, Jake Gyllenhaal, Big Evil. Why are you named Big Evil? Because my evil is big. That's the Democrat Party. It is literally good versus evil. So, kind of with that in mind, like Rick, something similar to what Rick Robinson said this morning is, we can point, we can laugh, we can make silly jokes and comments, but we all got to remember that deleterious Mr. Murphy and his law, because he can parachute from above and land right in our little pristine mess kit at any moment, at any time. Because if there's one thing that life has taught me, capital L, life, it's that shit happens and that things are cyclical, whether we want them to be or not. And then, as Rick stated, essentially, and I absolutely have to emphasize here, and I hope all conservatives emphasize this, emphasizingly, with emphasis. We can never afford to become complacent for any reason at all. Nothing anymore can be taken at face value. We can't count on much of anything, except that we got to keep our loins continuously girded for battle, for war. We need to start planning now to kick and claw into the 2026 midterms next year. We should be planning for that crap right now. We got to be prepared with veins between our teeth as we kick and claw and plot for presidential elections in 2028. Oh, we just got through with that. You cannot afford to be complacent. Trust me, Democrats, leftists, and globalists are doing that shit right now. Somebody is guaranteed behind the scenes. Yeah, okay. They appear to be right now kind of in disarray and rudderless. They appear to be forcefully guided by the worst of themselves, essentially all the little lugubrious leftists. But if there's one thing that you and I both know that Democrats and leftists do, it's discover coalition around themselves. They know how to circle the wagons better than almost anybody else. Luckily, this may take a while at this point. But don't think that they're not looking down the road, planning for 26, down the road, planning for 28. Oh, hell yeah. They haven't been this fragmented in a long time. That's a given. And it's going to take a while for them to discover just what they are for as opposed to what they are against. Because they're discovering, it's really tough to figure out what you're for, but it's easy to oppose anything. A little black paddle, and you turn it around and says some stupid shit on the other end. So in the meantime, they all gnash their teeth and wail and act stupid. Republicans should be whipping up even more foam, more lather, and smashing the throttle, kids. All throttle, no brake. So simultaneously as the warmongers and the war hawks in the U.S. are moaning and wailing about Ukraine and how we sabotaged, little winky dude, the EU is going off the rails, going excessively over the top, advocating for war. No, not kidding. Let's see if I have some of this stuff. Oh, I forgot to put this up. Where the hell are you when John Fetterman, who had a stroke and went into Walter Reed Hospital because he had at some point some suicidal ideations, he comes out and he's the moderately restrained aspect of the current Democrats right now. As in, what the fuck? Welcome over in Rumble Chat, Whiskey Dude, and the Alaskan. Good to see you guys over there. So Fetterman writes yesterday, a sad cavalcade of self-owns and unhinged petulance. Well, yeah, it only makes Trump look more presidential and restrained. What the hell? This guy's saying that. Well, the Democrats are stupid. Don't count them out. But then there's this. President of France, Emmanuel Macron. Let's try it again. Emmanuel Macron, that guy, addressed all Europeans to prepare for war with Russia. German Foreign Minister Baerbock gave an impassioned speech to prepare Germans for war with Russia. These fuckers are saber rattling on the same continent, comma, you stupid motherfuckers, with Russia. OMB. I mean, it is TDS, Trump derangement syndrome. If it was anybody else, this predominantly, I'm suggesting, wouldn't be an issue. I'm not quite there yet. A guy wrote, let me see if I have this. I don't have it, but I'm going to read it. Democrats can't continue on the 80-20 track, and Europe can't continue on the 80-20 track. So this guy, and I think I got this from Sean, Paul Brislin, wrote, as a German, I just want to get this straight. The entire Western world wants us to build up a huge army, march through Poland, and fight the Russians if necessary. Just writing it down so there are no misunderstandings in the future. Does that sound a little similar? So like I say, Macron tells the French, hey, get ready for war. Baerbock says, get ready for war. And he says, start mobilizing now. Don't wait for the formation of the incoming Merz government, German government, in April. And here we go. Finally, let me see if I can find this. Okay, here we go. This is from the Financial Times. Said Europe has got to trim its welfare state to build a warfare state. Can you imagine? Yeah. Oh, that's going to play well. That's really going to play well. Since the Marshall Plan, USAID, and the American taxpayer has we have trained Europe into laziness, complacency, and puerile little anger when they discover they may no longer be fed just so. Because as all those EU nations called us stupid barbarians, idiots who didn't have the societal safety nets and entitlement goodies that they had, they were able to wag their little fingers at us and ridicule us whilst simultaneously intentionally failing to mention that the great and free healthcare benefits and so on, they're all funded by you and me. Because Ukraine, Europe, the UK, Canada, the EU, NATO are all gobsmacked that the free cheese US ride may be winding down. How do people expect us to react, the United States and us in the US, all across the fruited plain, the United Snakes of America, when we discover large, outlawed, all over, that our hard-earned American taxpayer dollars have been used to fund programs, institutions, organizations, agencies, NGOs, foreign governments, and our own government to work completely against us, the American people. And there is so much more to be revealed. It's not even 2 months into President Trump's presidency. It's not even 2 months. Okay. So apparently, what should we do? We should applaud. We should roll into the fetal position. We should lick more boots. We should limber up and just bend over some more, pulling our butt cheeks further apart. Can I have another, sir? Demand no lube. Better yet, just ignore everything. Keep working hard and paying all our taxes with no questions whatsoever, because that's what's expected of us. Us, you, me, in the United States. That paradigm, thankfully, is pretty much, I hope, over and done for at least the next 4 years. Why can't these oppressive, freedom-killing, censorship-loving, war hawk nations understand that the American taxpayers are mostly done with having our necks bled while they're trying to play some kind of a little careful dance to make sure they don't bleed the hosts, us, too much, because you don't want to kill the pig. So what I have a suggestion. Oh my God, comments are packing up. I will get to your comments. I swear to God. And I might be a little bit over for the break because my soliloquy doesn't have that much longer to go. I got a suggestion, like I say. How about these greedy, unappreciative, lazy, boastful fucks learn to fend for themselves? And what do they think? What do they think is going to happen when Gazprom turns off the fuel nozzle into Europe from Russia? Putin doesn't even have to send one munition. All he needs to do is just, oh, sorry. Looks like you're going to have to get your fuel someplace else. Democrats are nuts. Europe is nuts. This is just the beginning. And conservatives and Republicans and conservatarians like me, we got to absolutely keep our eye on the ball, on the prize, all throttle, no brakes, and prepare for the 2026 midterms next year, 28 presidential election. 2 years after that, no complacency, all focus, hard edges. That's got to be us. You know, you'd think that I am not my dad. In many ways, I am my dad. But you'd think that as I get older, as I've gotten older, like my dad, he passed away at 88. I'm shocked that I'm still here at 75. That's fucking gobsmacked. That I would be more sympathetic. I would be festooned with more empathy, more understanding of everything in my dotage. But the reverse is true. I am more strident. I am more insistent, more unsympathetic than ever before. None of this, to quote leftists, is sustainable. None of it. Nunnavit. So I'm not stopping. I'm not relenting. And I refuse to be overcome with what I guess they would call some kind of a mantle of fear. Damn it, Jim, you were talking, and you should be paying attention to stuff, because stuff is going to happen here in just a moment. My producer was not paying attention, and he wants a raise. NGH, not going to happen. So like I say, I'm not stopping. I'm not relenting. I'm not going to be draped with a mantle of fear that Democrats, leftists, and globalists want to spread all over. And they want to throw it all over the world. Remember, fear creates these things. Fear creates submission, complacency, and moreover, compliance. All right. That is all intentional. That is plotted. That is planned. And I'm buying none of it.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Come listen to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon Radio Show. Live on select and exclusive Tuesday and Thursday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Central, and 8 p.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Rumble channel, SHR Media YouTube channel, X, Twitch, Spreaker, and wherever great conservative podcasts are found. BZ, your conservative Sherpa, guides you through the maelstrom of Democrat, leftist, and globalist lies, chaos, deceit, and betrayal. Raised as a free-range child with dirt, stains, mud, and freedom, BZ broadcasts from North Idaho, comfortably surrounded by actual normal people. Jump into our plush, sumptuous, palatial, and resplendent chat room on rumble.com. Click on live chat to join. Now, with 37% more umbrage and 19% more bulbosity than previous shows, featuring delicious Liberty additives for the best in late-night conservatarian talk radio. BZ reminds you that with great beard comes great responsibility. No chinchillas were harmed, embarrassed, fat-shamed, or the focus of any sarcasm whatsoever in the making of this ad.
Hello, I'm Matt, a student at Hillsdale College. Here's Hillsdale President Larry Arnn on the continuing relevance of the Constitution.
Many argue today that the Constitution is outdated because it addresses problems peculiar to the 18th century. Some parts of the Constitution do read rather quaintly. Consider the injunction against titles of nobility in Article 1, Section 9 of the Constitution. But is that so outdated? The purpose of the injunction is to prevent the government granting special privileges to some for partisan reasons. This strikes at the heart of the rule of law. The crony capitalism so common today is a place where the government bestows favors and tax dollars on some businesses to give them a leg up over others. This is exactly the kind of thing the Constitution was meant to prohibit. The Constitution is not so outdated after all.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.com.
Hey fellas, are you mission ready? Coming in November to SHR Media. By way of Big E Jackson, you need to check out Mission Ready Men. It's a show that equips you to navigate our society's challenges from a biblical perspective with courage and conviction. Tune into Mission Ready Men as we examine our culture through the prism of biblical truths, teachings, and how to apply them in our daily lives. Prepare to step up, stand out, and step into your role as a man, as ordained by God. That's Mission Ready Men, hosted by Earl Jackson. Coming this November on the SHR Media Network. And get mission ready.
Want to make an immediate difference in the life of a critically ill child? You have the ability to do that right now. Make a donation to Dream Makers for Life, the organization that restores dreams to seriously ill children and their families. You can sponsor a dream pack for a child, which contains a clear PVC backpack, a dry erase board adventure coloring book, a journal, and dry erase markers to inspire a critically ill child to envision a future adventure and hope. Want to become a dream maker for life yourself? Go to dreamforlife.org. That's dreamforlife.org. Help a child. Help a family. There is always hope.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And we're back, boys and girls. Everybody, first half hour down the drain, down the can on a Thursday night. It is March the 6th, the year of our Lord 2025, and I thank you very kindly for being here tonight. Please subscribe to the channel. You'll see some things running along the bottom down there. And as a matter of fact, now that I'm thinking about it, let's run this by. I know nobody's going to call. You never do. I get it. I get that concept, but I'm just going to put it down there just for the hell of it for right now. So like I say, the theme of the program tonight is Democrats are nuts. Europe is nuts. Please, God, please let me get to happy stories because I've got so much other stuff to play. Let me put this up right now. I come across some of the strangest things on the internet. And this is a little bit of history. And then I'm going to go to something really wacky. And maybe this will get me in trouble after this one. Point in the right direction, would you, damn it? This next one might get me in a little trouble. This is history, and I kind of enjoy history. I didn't know this.
He was the admiral. He was basically the head honcho in Japan. Pretty funny story.
Chojo.
I never looked up what happened to him. When the United States occupied Japan, they went to arrest all those leaders.
Mhm.
He tried to kill himself. He tried to shoot himself in the heart, and he missed.
They'll do that.
Yeah,
You gotta get them
they all
quick.
try- You gotta get the Japanese quick. They're
They'll push
going
the
for it. They're going for the button. He tried to shoot himself in the heart. He missed. He was like laying there, and his quotes like, "Everything we did was justified." You and then he lived, and they were like, "You're going to jail." The United States resuscitated him just to hang him.
Did they really?
Yeah.
They dishonored
he
him.
was
There's
in jail
more.
for a while, and he had to get new teeth, dentures, while he was in prison. And the American dentist who gave it to him carved "Remember Pearl Harbor" into the back of his teeth.
So you could lick it and feel it?
Yeah, but it was in
Oh.
Morse code.
He probably knew Morse code. If he was an admiral of the Navy, Imagine the first time going, huh?
You can't write that stuff. History is a little bizarre as far as I'm concerned. Then there was this. Now, for those of you faint of heart, I'm going to be poking fun at people, but once you understand who this shit stick is, I think you'll enjoy it. Let's turn this on. Here we go.
Arabia Child, Toronto, Canada, and I am shocked and appalled by a president of the United States of America, Donald Trump, talk about the annexation of Canada. This is unacceptable. As a man, we will protect Toronto with a fight to the death, using an Uber Eat driver as a restaurant defense. Bike lane will become trenches, and we will use the snowballs and the chicken balls to fight off the invader. Justin Trudeau has resigned as a prime minister, so I have begun a discussion with a dog and a cat about I create an alliance with a furry animal.
Okay. But BZ, why are you doing this? Well, because Canada is such a great place, right? So, who is this individual? Olivia Chow. She's a national asset. She's a communist Chinese, an unrepentant commie from China that Canada loves and voted for and inserted as mayor of Toronto. There's your loving Canada. So if you're wondering, oh, BZ, you're so terrible. No, I'm not terrible. I just play the stuff that I want to. And actually, you got to admit, that was funny as fuck. Now, and fuck is pretty funny. I shouldn't have to tell you that. Now, everybody has played this video. I'm sure you've seen it already of dancing people. But perhaps you wonder, where did this come from? BZ, where did this come from? And then compare the two and tell me who did it best.
Yeah, I was missing the action like Christian too. Back letting loose like a nigga had to pull. I'm a god in Memphis, who bigger than me? Shit that they did, I did it 16. He flexing his money, we know that he broke. Digging her mouth and at least throw coke. Keep pressed by the girl that's fucking the city, he tender. We call him Diddy, so beating.
So this is their inspiration. This is what I want you to understand. That's the inspiration. So let's go to the actual one right now. It's really tall. Excuse me, it's really small. So let's see if I can put it on the stage here and then manage to play it. Because here's the Democrats' interpretation of that prior video. Go. Damn, that's good. Punchy. It's really punchy. Right? What? It's not really punchy? Speaking of punchy, so Punchy Al Green gets censured. And you and I both know that in the Senate, the House, censure doesn't mean a damn thing. And people clutch their little pearlies and, oh, you're going to get censured. No one gives a shit. But because they're Democrats, this is also what they had to do as well.
On this vote, the yeas are 224. The nays are 198, with 2 answering present. The resolution is adopted. Without objection, a motion to reconsider is laid on the table.
Wait for it.
The House will come to order. The House will come to order. Shh.
Yeah, they're going to shh.
Will Representative Green present himself to the will?
Oh, here's where we slap you. Wait a minute. That cane has not touched the
By
ground.
its adoption of House Resolution 189, the House has resolved
Does he really
that
need that
Representative
cane?
Al Green be censured, that Representative Al Green forthwith present himself in the well of the House of Representatives for the pronouncement of censure, and that Representative Al Green be censured with public reading of this resolution by the Speaker.
Okay, you guys may not know, but they're singing We Shall Overcome. All right. Maybe I haven't told you guys this. I was a little shitstick leftist in the 60s, and I sang We Shall Overcome on Campi. And that's back when leftists actually believed in free speech. Number one, these elderly codgers are so way out past college right now, they can't sing, and they certainly don't support free speech. But that's the state of the art, if you will, in terms of leftists and Democrats right now. Well, okay, Al Green, not the singer, got censured. He got ejected. What happened under Biden? Anybody remember a Gold Star dad got kicked out of the State of the Union speech? That dude is absolutely nothing like Al Green at all. And who voted, by the way? This is going to be really interesting because I wonder who's going to get their asses primaried next year. These are the 10 Democrats who voted to censure Al Green. There's 6 of them right there. I'm surprised. Amy Barra, California. Jim Costa, California. 2 California right there. That's pretty weird. And then those are the remaining 4 for censure. And then this happened today. Gavin Newsom decided that he was going to throw his support against trans athletes in women's sport. So progressives, Newsom, split. Well, who is Newsom? He's a fucking reptilian with a human mask that he wears sometimes if he can manage to tuck it under his hair gel. That's who Newsom truly is. And of course, we all knew the paddles were going to work like crazy because they certainly worked well during the Third Reich. I mean, facts and evidence as far as we're concerned. And the Democrats want to quantify themselves as serious individuals? No, of course they weren't. They decided that they were going to double down on absolute insanity. And I said, evil. It's like evil. Stop. Producer, go back. Now turn on the sound. There we go. Mr. Producer, hit it.
But I think this was a lesson in finding one thing that you let yourself feel. And I let myself feel joy about DJ. And I hope he's alive for another, 95 years, right? And I hope he lives.
Don't politicize this kid and then go ahead and politicize it.
The life he wants to live. He wants to be a cop. He knows what he wants to do. And maybe when you have childhood cancer, that crystallizes for you. And I hope he has a long life as a law enforcement officer. But I hope he never has to defend the United States Capitol against Donald Trump supporters.
They actually went ahead and said that. How low can you go? How much more despicable can you be? Well, who are we talking about? This kid right here.
Craziest part, because my mom bathed me and my brothers all together, and out of nowhere I locked up, and then my dad was calling my name, and I started going to the slow thing, and he said, "Stop playing with me," and I started to act, I ain't gonna lie, I started to act slow, and then as soon as he said that, we was speeding all the way, running lights, going to the hospital. And then next thing you know, I was seizing on the table. They said, "No, we're going to have to go in his brain tonight." Ever since then, I had 13 brain surgeries. And that's how many times my personality has changed. And that's something that you don't hear from a terminally ill child. They had 5 months to live. I'm going to keep on going until my gas tanks run out. And that's when God calls you home. You never know when God's going to call you home. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for my dad. I know he's pretty proud of me, and I'm pretty proud of him too. And I'd like to thank President Trump, because if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be here today.
How incredibly self-aware is this kid? More self-aware than 98% of those people down on the floor that refuse to applaud for this kid. How reprehensible is that? The Democrats are nuts. Europe is nuts. And then we go here. So, sanctuary mayors, Eric Adams, New York, Michelle Wu, that piece of trash from Boston, Johnson of Denver, Johnson of Chicago. So they're testifying in front of Congress. So I remind everyone, Chicago is where Tren de Agua began, essentially, in 23. And Denver, they took over apartments. And everybody in the American media maggot side, no, that's false. That's fake. That's not true. Oh, it was true as hell. And then New York City was housing illegal immigrants. I can't think of the name of this massively wonderful, huge hotel that was kind of an elite landmark in the city. Now they're selling it because it's been trashed and the original owners are not interested in a restoration. And that's not kidding. That's not funny. And so what did just a little wee bit of this House Oversight Committee. And Jim Jordan.
This is Mr. Jordan from Ohio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mayor Johnston, who's Abraham Gonzalez?
Wait.
Thank you, Congressman. He is a individual that was released from the county jail on Friday in the city and county of Denver.
That's all you know about him?
I do know that he was facing charges that the
Venezuelan gang member arrested by Border Patrol on September 20th, 2023, released into the country by the Biden administration. A few months later, he's arrested in your city, charged with aggravated assault. On March 11th,
it doesn't stop there, of course.
2024, he's charged with motor vehicle theft, stole a car. And then on March 20th, 2024, Mr. Gonzalez is charged with felony menacing. 6 days after that last charge, I send you a detainer, which includes an administrative warrant. Basically, it says if you're going to release this bad guy, this gang member who allegedly stole a car, menaced people, and assaulted people, give us a 48-hour heads up. Is that right? That refresh your memory?
I do know about the detainer request. I do know that we provided a notification of release.
What kind of notice did you give ICE when you released him?
We gave him notification. I'm not sure how long in advance it was. I do know that.
1 hour.
I do know that there was
1 hour notice, and you released him 5 days ago, right?
Okay, stop. How can you justify any of this behavior? This is all intentional. Everything the Biden administration did, not by Biden, but the people that were puppeting him in the background, because he was not a viable, credible human being at the time. He was addled. Everyone knew it. That was one of the biggest political scandals in the history of politics. That the Democrats and the American media maggots propped up an empty suit like a bad movie that we've seen any number of times that we used to laugh at because it was funny, but that shit for 4 years, es no bueno. Not funny at all. Wasn't packed with laughter. I didn't have a good time. Nobody had a good time. So anything and everything that was done during that administration, trust me, it was done with absolute intent. There's no way to think otherwise. Now I'm going to go back to Europe just for a second. This is the one that I wanted to show. If this isn't just a wee bit of irony in terms of Europe is nuts. Where have we seen this before? This kind of crap is crazy. And then you have something like this, where through the BBC. This is an article saying that the U.S. is destroying the world order. Oh, this from the Ukrainian ambassador to the UK, where, if you remember, do you remember, children, that during the sit down with Trump, Zelensky called Vice President Vance Suka a bitch. I don't have it here. Sean played it. Almost anybody and everybody on SHR played it. And the ambassador in the room, the female ambassador, is holding her head in her hands, going, oh, fuck. Why did you have to do that and go there? So they think we're nuts because we don't want war. Everything is ass backwards. And how does that happen? How does that go? How does that occur? Well, guess what? Would it shock you to know that the tack has changed once again?
Нам відомо, що росіяни не змінили своїх позицій та вимог щодо України. Вони будуть вимагати скорочення нашої армії, будуть хотіти юридичну відмову від наших територій, також суттєвої політичної деформації України.
Okay, the little black uniform wearing bastard said basically, you know, I was open to negotiations with Russia. I reversed my position. I don't want to talk. I'm not going to talk to Russia. Now, he issued an apology to Trump, which was an apology, not an apology, but made it clear that his stance is not going to change. He doesn't want to discuss anything with Russians. Okay. Logic. Can we have logic step into the room just for a moment? Do you possibly think that Putin is going to negotiate with the EU? Do you think Putin is going to negotiate with Brussels? Do you think Putin is going to negotiate with Ukraine? Well, Ukraine doesn't want to talk to him, so it must be the EU that's going to talk to him, right? Because they're talking big. They've got massive sabers in which they're rattling almost simultaneously. But Ukraine, who needs to talk to Russia, has said they're not going to talk to Russia. I think I have enough time to play this. So, what doesn't the U.S. understand about Ukraine? Go.
Things that Americans don't understand about Russian-Ukrainian conflict. This is actually very sad. People really don't get it. They physically cannot imagine it. Many people ask me what I'm thinking in my DMs and why I'm not making videos about it. That's going to be one and only video. I think situation in Ukraine has much bigger purpose than we all know or think. And what Americans don't realize about Ukrainian people and Ukrainian mentality is the level of corruption. Let me try to explain you the level of corruption. When it all started, a lot of people ended up on the streets, right? Had to relocate, had to evacuate. So a lot of people were donating money and donating clothes, stuff, medical supplies, everything. And everything was shipped to Ukraine. I have a lot of friends that live in Ukraine, and everything I say, it's from their words, from different people, live witnesses that are there. First of all, none of them got even a little bit of any kinds of supplies that are shipped from the United States, not even used clothes. And moreover, in a couple of months...
Well, wait a minute. Stop right there. What the hell happened? Are you saying you didn't get our stuff? Well, no, it's Ukraine. They're little angels. This couldn't have happened. I don't believe it.
Were shipped. They appeared in local supermarkets. They were selling bundles of used clothes, and everything that was donated from the United States was sold in supermarkets. And later on, my other friend discovered that...
Okay, stop. My hard-earned taxpayer dollars, American taxpayer dollars, funded this shit. You have been mushroomed, you've been kept in the dark, and fed crap.
That the trucks that were transporting the aid, they were stopped on the borders of the entry to the city and just redirected and taken to some place where they would package everything and prepare everything to sell it.
So let me make a comparison. Would that be similar to sending aid to Idi Amin and expecting it to go out to his people? And the answer is, yeah, if you're that fucking stupid, this is what occurs. Here's somebody, wrong way, let's go this way. Here's somebody telling you what actually occurred in Ukraine. And with USAID. And are you done with this shit yet? Are you tired of
Now
this
you can
yet?
imagine if people are reselling used clothes, what are they doing with all the weapons that are given? With all the money that are given? I don't think anything America sends actually reaching Ukraine. I think Russia is pretty calm about what's going on because they know that these weapons will never actually reach Russia. All these weapons are reaching United States because who is buying the weapons are coming back to the United States with these weapons because its borders are open or were open or they're already here. And that's the scariest part that Americans don't understand. I don't know if anybody of you can ever imagine the level of corruption that's going on there.
Did you just understand what she said? The weapons that we've been sending to Ukraine, the equipment is being resold in supermarkets, on the streets, and weapons, she's hypothesizing, are coming back through the U.S. border, apparently through Mexico, perhaps through Canada. And is it possible that these weapons could be used against us? Our weapons against us. Have we seen that scenario before?
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, it's Sean from the Edge of Liberty. Join me right here on the SHR Media Network every Monday and Friday, 12 on the Pacific, 3 on the East Coast. On this show, we'll discuss news, politics, the government, how cranky we are about the government, and more. If you want to hear hard talk, good interviews, sarcasm, bad jokes, and oh God, that really is me in a nutshell. Either way, check me out right here on the Edge of Liberty every Monday and Friday, 12 Pacific, 3 on the East, on the SHR Media Network.
Freedom. One nation in all of human history was built on that bedrock. Ours. A republic of the people, by the people, and for the people. Self-government requires freedom, just as freedom requires an individual willingness to self-govern. Freedom has made America exceptional, but it can only last as long as you and I seek the good, as expressed by the laws of nature and nature's God. It can only last if you and I choose to act as people of character. Forging character has been the pursuit of Hillsdale College since 1844.
Are you looking for a way to boldly express your faith and love for your country? And check out Seven Armors, the premier apparel company for patriotic men of God, where faith meets freedom in style. Our t-shirts are more than just clothing, they're statements. Bold, stylish, and meaningful. From timeless messages to modern designs, we've got something for every patriotic man of God. Wear your beliefs proudly with Seven Armors gear. Don't miss the chance to wear your faith and freedom on your sleeve. Visit 7armors.com today and join the movement. That's the number 7armors.com. 7armors.com. Faithful, vigilant, steadfast, passion.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And welcome back to the Saloon. I'm BZ. You're not. Thanks for being here. 30 people watching live right now. I appreciate that. Being streamed on KLRN, Twitch, the SHR Media YouTube channel. Now, things may have changed. I bigfooted Big E's show this morning, And I noticed that instead of we prior to this morning, we needed 68 more subscriptions for me to get my vodka. That's of primary import right now. You know, to unlock the algorithms and let SHR more essentially breathe freedom and be safe from evil algorithms. Once you break the 500 subscription point, for whatever reason, YouTube seems to have a little bit more sympathy of you. See, that's not that important to me because I know that if we go over 500, I get more fucking vodka. Okay? Listen, what do you think is in here right now? My KC 135 Kettle One refueling team. And that's a great mug. Can't get one because I only have one. Sorry, it's mine. It belongs to me. So this morning, there were 68 subscriptions required to get to 500. Now, a little bit later during Earl's show, we're down to 66. 2 more people subscribe to the channel. So if you would subscribe, we only need 66 more people to get to the magic mark. And well, you know how that goes. So thanks for being here tonight. I greatly appreciate it. We're talking about Ukraine. First, I said Democrats are crazy. Then I said Europe is crazy. Then somebody in chat, I think it was Sean, said something similar to, wait, isn't there something going on next? And yeah, U.S. says Zelensky has agreed to sign the mineral deal. We'll see if he follows through. He agreed to that, and Special Envoy Steve Witkoff told reporters on Thursday, that's today, well, it is 9:07 Pacific, 11:07 Central, and it's 12:07 Eastern, so that's tomorrow. So when I say today, and in Bolivia, it's 1749.723, drawer 3, paragraph 4, growth cluster 2, but I never did understand Bolivian time. So, yeah, apparently there's an agreement, but the big takeaway from this is let's see how long that agreement lasts, if it lasts at all. And again, as I indicated before, the Financial Times, and we all know all the lucre that's involved from the United States are these shit sticks right here. Are they willing to tell their people that you got to trim your welfare state? You got to trim for this guy right here. Do you envision that that's going to go well, that that's going to play well? I'm not really sure. So Emmanuel Macron said, how did I say that? Macron. Anyway, he says Europe has to be ready to defend Ukraine. And then earlier, or excuse me, a little bit later on today, this was interesting. SHR has its own little chat, its own little X feed where the 4 of us that are members of SHR get together and we laugh and poke fun at each other. And then occasionally we ship stuff that I found this interesting. Now, Italy's Maloney, and you tell me how stupid this is, but this is the extent to which Europe is nuts and they're willing to accommodate Ukraine. Maloney, Prime Minister Giorgia Maloney, said Ukraine should be granted the security of NATO without actual membership in the military alliance. Well, if you're not a member of NATO, then Article 5 won't apply to you. And how much did it take of any kind of a sacrifice to say or suggest that? The answer is 0. None. But they're all realizing, they're finally coming to terms with the fact that the lovely little luxuriant days of the U.S. propping up the EU and NATO are mostly over at this point. At the same time, like I indicated, the EU calls us barbarians and idiots. They crowed all over the place about their wonderful safety nets and security and social programs they had that we didn't, all purchased by the American taxpayer. And about this time, I'm saying, and I'm guessing a lot of other people are suggesting, you know what, pay for your own fucking defense. It shouldn't be hard to figure out. In the meantime, wait, there's more. Let's add China to the stage, because the Chinese are saying we're ready for any kind of war with the U.S., be it a trade war, tariff war, or war. All brought on by weakness from Biden. Weakness emboldens bad actors. Democrats still don't get it. Oh my God. This is glorious. I rub my hands together in anticipation because it looks as though we may actually get to some happy stories tonight. Here are some serious stories that we're going to consider just for a moment. I don't know if you guys do, if you have a show, if you consider where it is that you drive traffic for your show. I am uninterested in driving traffic to ABC, NBC, CBS, or to the Times or WAPO or any of that crap. Breitbart was primarily eliminated through Google some years ago. Say what you will about Breitbart. If there's an article that's logical, I'll try to go to Breitbart because I would much rather drive traffic there than to, say, for example, the Drudge Report or CNN et al. But this is what we knew was common sense. And so when an article comes out like this, and you look at the headlines and read the text, and the first thing you say is, okay, what moron didn't know this? That people who are interested in transgender surgery are those people who are not mentally stable in the first place, or if they're children, they're living in an environment that is way mentally unstable. And especially if there's a crazy leftist white chick in the house who had a boy, the first thing that she's going to do, having lamented the fact that she got a boy and she didn't get a girl, is try to transition the kid into a girl. But you all knew that. Huge study says transgender surgery doubles depression rates. What prompts suicidal ideation? Well, that wouldn't be depression rates, would it? Read the article. By the way, I should state this. When I'm through, I post all my shows on a couple of places. You can read all my show links when you go to Rumble, the SHR Media channel on Rumble. And if you look at this show after it posts and gets itself all together, then you can read all these links. I have all these links, all the links ready in SHR Rumble under BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon. Also at bloviatingzeppelin.net, I repost all my shows there too, including all my links. None of them are missing. Hence, no Sasquatch. But I post all my stuff there. So if you missed something in translation, you can go to one or both of those places and find the stories that I happen to be talking about, which are primarily, they're all common sense. Here's another one that few people mentioned. There's a guy named Hassan Piker. Now, a lot of these names for all these little kids and all these stupid squids that are influencers or whatever the fuck they are, because I don't really care. But these guys, like this one, make a hypothetical about killing Senator Rick Scott. So Twitch, now I have never been to Twitch because mostly I don't give a shit about Twitch. And I guess there are massive leftists there who used to, frankly, to be honest, I'm always going to be honest. I've never been to Twitch. I'll probably never get to Twitch. I think we still stream there. Don't know. Honestly, don't really care. It's a repository of leftists. And if SHR wants to still stream there, that's fine. Couldn't care less. Twitch has temporarily banned a guy named Hassan Piker for a 5th time past Monday, shortly after the leftist streamer talked about how if Republicans really cared about Medicaid, they would just go ahead and kill Florida Senator Rick Scott. Again, who are all the leftists? Who are all the violent individuals? Leftists. It's not on the right. It's not on the conservatives. It's not on the conservatarians. It's not on all, white supremacists. And then this guy, former NIH director Francis Collins, retires from the agency after documents previously revealed he lied about his involvement with gain-of-function research in the Wuhan lab. RFK Jr. Hello? Do you hear this? Do you see this? You know, people the world over, or at least the U.S. over, are saying, investigate, investigate, investigate. It's about time we see some people prosecuted criminally. Now, don't get your hopes up too much, kids. But why are these people fleeing like rats? Well, because they are rats, and because they're liars, and because they jeopardized essentially the population, most of the population of the United States. Here's something that I guess I shouldn't be surprised about, but this is illustrative of how deep and low the Biden administration went. From the New York Post. This came out yesterday. Stranded astronaut confirms Biden shot down Musk's offer to bring pair home. Absolutely factual. And this you should place in the category of what the fuck? You jeopardize Americans in space because Boeing's equipment crapped out. Musk had the opportunity with flanges that would fit because he had to find out the dimensions for all of that. One of the NASA astronauts trapped on the International Space Station said he believes Elon Musk's claim that the Biden administration rejected SpaceX's CEO offer to help bring the team home. A guy named Barry Butch Wilmore made the comment Tuesday during an in-orbit press conference with fellow castaways Sunita Williams, 9 months after their Boeing Starliner capsule malfunctioned and left the pair stuck on the ISS. I speak leftist, so I'll translate. Biden was not going to give a win to Elon Musk because he's been associated with Donald John Trump, OMB, Orange Man Bad, the guy with the dead orange cat on his head. But jeopardizing the safety of people in space, not the slightest whit of a consideration.
The corruption
how
inside Congress.
Abjectly
How concerned
criminal can you get? And by the way, if you were thinking that I'm lining up a video at this point, yes, I am. When I'm talking about corruption, how corrupt is Congress? Sean Ryan has a guest. Let's listen.
are you guys with your communications to each other, your colleagues, me?
Very concerned. I think everything I do and say is tracked. They gave me a cell phone when I first got to Congress. I said, I don't want it. Yeah.
They gave you a cell phone?
Yeah, they gave us all a cell phone. They give everybody a cell phone. But the real corruption in Congress is in the structure. Literally, we've had committee chairmen that have written a personal check and been made chairman of committees. Personal check. I've said this many times that if the NFL was Congress, Peyton Manning would still be waiting to get in. Wow. It's not about putting the best player in.
The corruption.
It isn't. Here's the little story that I may have told you before. A few years ago, not necessarily in a galaxy that far away, because I was living in California, always spelled with a K at the time. the SHR Media Group, Sean, Clint, myself, went to Freedom Fest. I think this was 2017, if I'm not mistaken. And we spoke and had Thomas Massey on the air at SHR, a new representative from Kentucky. And he essentially told us to the sides of our heads that went directly into our ossicles, something that I was shocked about. And that's Thomas Massey said, if you want to get on certain committees, you're going to have to pony up. He's a Republican. So if he wanted to be on committees, he would have to pony up to the Republicans, to the RNC, in order to get appointed or allowed to go into certain committees. You could buy your way in. Again, continuing crap, affirming that it's all corruption. And folks, how much longer are you going to be tolerant? I came across this today. It doesn't necessarily have that much directly to do with politics, but it has to do with what's right. And it has to do, poor insurance companies, because, historically, I haven't thought evil of insurance companies that much. I seldom have used insurance, health insurance. But here we go. Listen to this.
Batshit crazy video that proves just how insane the American healthcare system is, as this guy, a California resident, calls up his insurance company to discuss a bill for an ambulance ride, learning that the bill went up after they found out he was insured.
I think there's a mistake
Not
on the
kidding.
bill, but maybe you could help me out. We got a bill, and then we realized that you guys didn't have our insurance, so we sent you the insurance, and it looks like the bill went up.
It went up?
Yeah, the first bill we got without the insurance was $600,
Mm-hmm.
and then the second one was almost $1,300.
Okay. Yeah, so that the first invoice you received, that's a discount that you receive if you're uninsured. So you're not eligible for the discount since you are insured. And so the bill was $2,342.14. We billed your insurance. Your insurance only paid $1,078.85.
Process that.
Can I go back to the discount without the insurance?
No.
No, so you're insured, so you're not eligible for the discount.
Okay, that's crazy land thinking. That's crazy land. How many people have dealt with insurance? Well, I know for one that Rocky Stucci, who was here in the show about 3 weeks ago, had circumstances dealing with insurance. Continue.
If I go cancel my insurance, am I eligible for the discount?
No, sir, because we checked eligibility and you do have active coverage for data service.
Oh, I needed to cancel it before I got the service. Okay, so I'll get cheaper health care if I'm uninsured.
If you're uninsured, you're eligible for the discount, correct?
So who's paying for all this? If you're not insured, who's paying? Ask yourself again, Jesus Christ, cui bono? Democrats are nuts. Europe is nuts. We are frequently nuts, and we're corrupt as shit. On the other hand, you're paying for everyone that isn't insured. So your bill, you lucky bastard or bastardette, your bill goes up. Maybe we can place that in the woohoo category. So apparently, this is the newest that I've been able to find. Tariffs are changing.
So we talked to Canada and Mexico and said, look, you got to close the border and you got to end this illegal immigration. It's enough is enough. If you respect us as your best trading partner, end it. And you've got to end fentanyl. And the way we're going to describe fentanyl is very simple. Autopsied American deaths. They got to end. They just got to end. I don't want to hear you talk about it. I want Americans to stop being murdered by opioids and fentanyl. And so they did a nice job on the border to start, but the fentanyl deaths are just not declining in the way we expected. So what do you think the president's going to do? He's going to come out today angry that Americans are still being killed. Now, both the Mexicans and the Canadians were on the phone with me all day today trying to show that they'll do better. And the president's listening because, you know, he's very, very fair and very reasonable. So I think he's going to work something out with them. It's not going to be a pause, none of that pause stuff. But I think he's going to figure out, you do more and I'll meet you in the middle some way. And we're going to probably be announcing that tomorrow. So somewhere in the middle will likely be the outcome. The president moving with the Canadians and Mexicans, but not all the way.
So what have I said? You guys, okay. Let me recraft my statement. You guys, other than us, we know how Trump works. Tariffs, the world is falling. Fuck. No, it's not. Tariffs are a tool. Everything Donald Trump does in terms of negotiations is a tool. The world is not ending. Give the guy a break. It's not the end of the world. It's not the end of the planet. Oh my God. 5 minutes before the bottom of the hour. Whew. I know. Pretty amazing. What? Juniper? What do you hear?
It's time for happy stories and good times.
And is it ever? Listen.
Mr. Speaker, the President of the United States.
This was just awesome.
We won the popular vote by big numbers and won counties in our country on a map that reads almost completely red for Republican.
Finding that members continue to engage in willful and concerted disruption of proper decorum, the chair now directs the sergeant at arms to restore order. Remove this gentleman from the chamber.
And once again, I look at the Democrats in front of me and I realize there is absolutely nothing I can say to make them happy or to make them stand or smile or applaud. Nothing I can do.
Okay, let me stop right here because I'm looking at Rumble Chat and I'm looking here. Some of the people in Rumble Chat are saying they can't see the video. Can you guys, where you are right now, can you see the video about Trump? Are you hearing it? And are you seeing it? Please let me know in chat. I'm going to continue.
If I could find a cure to the most devastating disease, and these people sitting right here will not clap, will not stand, and certainly will not cheer for these astronomical achievements. They won't do it, no matter what. 5 times I've been up here. It's very sad, and it just shouldn't be this way. With no end in sight, the United States has...
Okay, let me stop right here. StreamYard did something new to me today. It created what it calls a demo scene. And I've done everything that I possibly can to get the videos here. I can see it here, but the new update with StreamYard apparently is not allowing people to see the video. And so I'm going to have to figure out what the hell is happening because StreamYard has changed shit on me just because they like to change shit. Not happy. So let me ask you guys this. Have you seen any of the videos that I have played since the show began? Any of them at all? Because I'm going to have to try to winnow down and figure out, did you see anything? How did that happen? Why not? Obviously, you can hear the audio. I can see it on my end. Now I got to figure out why. Why you can't see it on your end. So from now until the rest of the show, I guess I'm just going to you're going to hear the audio. I'm going to have to figure out what the fuck happened to the video.
Descent hundreds of billions of dollars to support Ukraine's defense with no security, with no anything. Do you want to keep it going for another 5 years? Yeah, you would say Pocahontas says yes. And we've ended weaponized government where, as an example, a sitting president is allowed to viciously prosecute his political opponent, like me. How did that work out? Not too good. Not too good. The media and our friends in the Democrat Party kept saying we needed new legislation. We must have legislation to secure the border. But it turned out that all we really needed was a new president. And tonight, DJ, we're going to do you the biggest honor of them all. I am asking our new Secret Service Director, Sean Curran, to officially make you an agent of the United States Secret Service.
Okay. Apparently, StreamYard has, in fact, changed some things on me. I may have discovered where I need to go next, and I apologize for not recognizing that I can only click certain of the other scenes down below here. I know it's technical and you don't really give it. See if I can get this to play again. Because another happy story is Newsom is apparently catching a hell of a lot of flack. And I'm looking at the replay to see if now this isn't going up there. Why not? Let's see if this goes. Or this. Okay. I'm not getting the concept between the two, but in any event, Newsom is getting a bunch of flack because now he has regressed from his progressive policy and is catching hell from progressives. Okay, let's take a break. I'm a little unhappy right now. I'll be right back.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Welcome to Reaver of Common Sense, where we cut through the noise of news and politics with a sharp wit and clear discussion. Tune in every Monday and Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for a refreshing dose of reality as we fearlessly tackle the tough topics with no nonsense, just pure common sense. Visit shrmedia.com to discover where you can catch Reaver of Common Sense in action. He's here to amplify your inner logic. He may not always be polite, he may not always be refined, but one thing's for sure, he always tells it like it is.
Independence. With that declaration, America was born. Inspired by a belief in the God-given rights of every human being, and in the good that comes from exercising these rights well. The founders of our great nation chose independence. As do we. Hillsdale College accepts no government funding because independence makes possible the good to which we aspire.
Attention, all patriotic women of faith. Yep, I'm talking to you, sis. Are you looking for high-quality, super soft apparel that reflects your love for country and your devotion to God? Look no further than Carry Girl Gear. Picture this. You rocking a tee so soft it's like being hugged by a cloud, all while showing off your love for God and country. Sounds dreamy, right? Well, welcome to reality, babes, because that's what we're all about here at Carry Girl Gear. We specialize in super soft tees, tanks, and more, designed specifically for the strong, patriotic women who proudly wants to carry their message of faith and freedom. When you shop with us, you're not just getting a t-shirt. You're joining a community of like-minded women who are proud to wear their beliefs straight on their tees. So whether you're sipping sweet tea on the porch or leading the charge for faith and freedom, do it in a Carry Girl tee. Because life's too short for stiff, boring tees. CarryGirl.com, where faith and freedom meets fashion.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And we're back. I'm back. I am BZ. Trying to figure out how to get my StreamYard working. Thanks to everyone for being here tonight. I greatly appreciate it. I'm going to have to go back to the drawing board to figure out why it is that you're occasionally seeing the videos, mostly not. I have not been able to process that and put that together yet. In any matter, I thank you for being here tonight. I hope this doesn't affect you and make you think ill of me because, well, I've said any number of times, I hate technology. I'm a techno-Luddite, and I don't change and I don't adapt very well. And I'm not quite the techno-Luddite that Sackhead Clint was back in 21, I think, is when the chat show ended and Clint could not reappear. But let's see if these things can be made to come to the screen. Now, I'm playing over here. That is not going. How about now? Let's see if this is going. Because there's a delay. I'm looking from here and I'm looking over to Rumble and I don't. So, okay, so there it is. What about this? No. What about this? Let's see if this, maybe I have to go to one screen to get back to the other. Okay, why won't it do that? Well, screw it. I'm interrupting the show and your enjoyment of happy stories. This is a happy story. San Francisco-based federal workers were ordered back to the office. Then half of them were laid off. You know, it's like I said in social media, this is something like the Grail Knight in terms of choose wisely. You knew what Trump was when you voted for him, and now everyone is saying, you voted for Orange Man Bad and he's slaughtering you. No, he's saving the bulk of the American taxpayers. This is another happy story. DC appellate panel reverses injunction, allows Trump to fire special counsel. Oh, now it took. Okay. Jeez, oh, pizza. Boy, I oughta. To the moon, Alice. Seems even the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals has noticed that the Article 3 branch doesn't have authority to tell the Article 2 branch who to hire and fire. And it looks if I want to keep this on the screen, I'm just going to have to go from one to the other. Here's another happy story. ABC News to lay off dozens, merge Good Morning America and Good Morning America 3, and kill the 538 data site, which I'm not sure what that was, but I do know that 538, if it's through any of these people, had to be a massive leftist site. So let's give accolades where accolades are due. Thanks, ABC, for kicking these people to the curb. ABC News staffers began packing up their desks Wednesday amid layoffs as the Embattled Network restructured its programming that include merging 2020 and Nightline and consolidating its Good Morning America productions. Now, why do you think that this has been happening? Could it be because the folks, the citizens of the United States have discovered that the American media maggots haven't been telling the truth for quite some time, that they are fake news and they're bleeding subscribers and they're bleeding advertisers and they're hemorrhaging viewers? Isn't that glorious? Another happy story. Canadians are fed up, said Alberta lawyer leading delegation to Washington for statehood talks. You would never believe these things. Absent Donald Trump, if you were to say that someone from Canada, from Alberta, I'm in Ohio, Idaho. I did live in Ohio. I'm in Idaho. And directly above me is Alberta. Alberta is essentially the breadbasket and the petroleum tranche of all of Canada. And as a result, Alberta is kind of mostly conservative, a hell of a lot more than the eastern portion of Canada. A Canadian lawyer is leading efforts to explore the possibility of Alberta joining the U.S. as President Trump continues to push for closer ties with Canada's energy-rich province, no shit, Sherlock. Because that's where the Keystone XL pipeline was originating. Canada wanted, during Biden and during Trump, they just didn't get to the point where it was ready yet. From Alberta, the Keystone XL pipeline was going to go through down south, through a number of states and down to the chemical coast for all the refineries. That area is in fact called the Chemical Coast down near Texas. And the Gulf of America. Thank you very much. I'll be here all night. So beginning with trolling, this has turned into something that is starting to acquire a bit of a life of its own.
The new leader of the U.S. Small Business Administration is working to pull regional.
This is a happy story. The SBA, Small Business Administration, is telling regional offices, smaller offices, to exit sanctuary cities like Denver. OMG, if that isn't a happy story, I don't know what is.
Offices out of so-called sanctuary cities, and that could mean the office here in Denver.
Denver 7's Ali Jennerjohn is joining us live now. And how could all of this play out in Colorado?
Well, the memo.
Let's go back to some of the comments. Cheetah, welcome to chat. Legacy MSM is just about over, and I am all the more glad for it. I completely concur with that. How can they make any money with their limited viewership? Well, here's limited viewership. I have 2 new channels. I've had them now for about almost 6 months. One of them is the Tibetan throat singing channel, and the other one is the parakeet training channel. And each of those channels is acquiring more viewers than CNN and MSNBC combined. Continue.
Does not list those exact locations things could be moved to. We do know that the regional office here in Denver doesn't just cover Colorado, but also 5 other surrounding states. What the memo does say is offices currently based in sanctuary cities will be moved to areas that Loeffler refers to as less costly, more accessible, and in communities that, quote, comply with federal immigration law.
And there you have it. If there is no compliance with federal law, why should we give one whit or shit about you? And the answer is we don't, I don't, and no one should. That seems pretty obvious. That's a damn happy story. Here's another happy story. This is regard to Hamas. This is from President Trump, issued from Truth Social. Shalom Hamas means hello and goodbye. You can choose. Release all of the hostages now, not later, and immediately return all of the dead bodies of the people you murdered, or it is over for you. Only sick and twisted people keep bodies, and you are sick and twisted. I am sending Israel everything it needs to finish the job. Not a single Hamas member will be safe if you don't do as I say. This is how a leader speaks. This is how a strong leader takes charge. Democrats are not strong. Their women are stronger than their men. Their men are pussified. I'll say that all day long. This is your last warning. For the leadership, now is the time to leave Gaza while you still have a chance. Also, to the people of Gaza, a beautiful future awaits, but not if you hold hostages. If you do, you are dead. Make a smart decision, release the hostages now, or there will be hell to pay later. Donald Trump has said essentially, you know what? Whatever Israel wants, I'm going to give it to him. My guess would be supplies, money, material, who knows? And then, see, so many people have changed. And this is nothing but a good thing. Donald John Trump got more blacks, minorities, Hispanics, etc., this last election than I think any other Republican in history. And it's because of the Democrats. They have all shot themselves in the foot. Democrats are nuts. Europe is nuts. Now we're encountering happy stories. Joe Behar didn't really like what I think this is Steve, I can't think of the guy's last name, Steve Smith. What he replied and what he said. Steve, take it away.
It's only been in office for 6 weeks. Seems like 6 years, doesn't it? And he's been going around with his cronies touting his so-called landslide and blowout win. But he won the popular vote by 1.5%, one of the smallest ever. And he won the general election by less than 50%. So what kind of mandate is this really?
Well, it is a mandate, and I'm going to explain why. And I don't mind the question, but let me be very clear. I'm no supporter of Trump. I'm a supporter of truth and the facts. And here's the facts. The man won every swing state. He increased in terms of his voter turnout in his favor from the standpoint of blacks, Latinos, and young voters. He increased his numbers in that regard from 2020. 89% of the counties shifted to the right. That's a mandate. We can sit up there and play around all we want to. In 2020, Trump didn't win the popular vote. He didn't win the electoral college vote. A matter of fact, the Republicans hadn't won the popular vote, if I remember correctly, since 2004. But they did this year. So 20 years after they last won the popular vote, they won the popular vote. They won the electoral college vote. The man won every swing state. And on top of it all, 89% of the counties shifted against. I don't understand how people can look at that and say, there's no.
Do you see anybody on this panel telling him to fuck off, or you're wrong, or you're incorrect, or you don't have the facts, or you don't know what you're talking about? I hear silence.
No mandate. There's a mandate.
What's a different definition of a mandate, I guess?
But the problem is that if you're the Democratic Party and you lost 49.8% to 48.3%, and you're looking at that 1.5% dip, that's an excuse for you to say, what we did really wasn't that bad.
Some people didn't
we should
show up.
continue to do that. No, don't continue to do it. Find a new strategy.
It's only been.
Find a new strategy. Yeah, that's a happy story. You know, how dare he talk that way to the people of The View? This is another happy story. I'm kind of hedging my bet on this. Canada moves ahead with listing cartels as terrorist entities in a crackdown. Okay. But stop. Take this all into consideration. You know for a fact none of this would have happened. No designation of cartels, no concern whatsoever about the border. It would be wide open. The fentanyl would still be coming down. Think of it this way, think like a cartel member. If it's another BZ if then equation. If the southern border is now a bitch kitty to move stuff through, and it appears to be more so, to the point where cartels are now attempting to mimic U.S. BP trucks and official trucks to move their stuff from south to north. So if the southern border is a choke point, what isn't yet? North. Now, it's inconvenient as shit to move your drugs and your precursor chemicals up to Canada, but it can be done. It'll be a little bit more costly, but it can be done. So when you seal the southern border, if you don't attend to the northern border, Canada, then bad things are going to happen. So I'm a little concerned about Canada. Great to see that. I want to continue to see follow through. Now, here's another. God, I love this. If you haven't followed the plight of the poor trod upon Tiffany Henyard and what was it, the town? Dolton. This bint stripped Bolton of funds, acted like a moron, was a complete imbecile and a racist, I should say. And finally, the people of Dolton have had it. They kicked her stupid ass out. However, right after that occurred, here's the happy story part. Feds subpoena Dolton and Illinois records tied to ousted Super Mayor Tiffany Henyard's boyfriend. Oh, there may be hell to pay or in Paltor pay. This is another good one. What do I got? 10 minutes? I will be able to get through a good portion of these, I believe. Happy stories tonight. I've so wanted to get to these. Trump signs executive order making English the official language of the United States. Again, why did it take Trump to do this? Presidents have said over the years, I'll get around to that. And all of the I'll get around to that is being gotten around to under Trump. Again, a great story, a happy story. There's a reason, folks, Democrats don't know this. All the air controllers in the world decided multiple decades ago that the universal language of air controllers, pilots, and flights would be English. Apparently, the United States hates English. The UK hates English until we get somebody that says something similar to what Michael Savage has been saying for a long time. Borders, language, culture. Michael Savage has a pretty good message. He's one of the world's shittiest, stupid, idiot messengers. But borders, language, and culture, that should resonate. Now we finally got the language part. We're trying to get the borders part. The culture, it's going to be kind of tough. This was so wonderful. Oh my God, this was so packed with buttery political goodness. Head of the FBI in New York forcibly resigns in latest shakeup at the Bureau under the Trump administration. Now, some of the people in conservative podcasts have said, Bondi, why did you make promises and then you didn't extract your promises, and where was your follow through? And what I've attempted to say is, hang on. Let's not be silly, stupid, and fattening just yet. Let's give Bondi and Patel the ability and the wherewithal to try to figure all this crazy stuff out, because no one has tried to suss out the deep state in the FBI and the DOJ, because everyone prior loved it. And now you have to try to figure out who are the true underminers. Well, they found, wrong way. Well, they found one right here. James Dennehy. He was a, quote, well-regarded leader. This is from Eyewitness News, by the way, in New York. So that's why he is a well-regarded leader in the New York law enforcement community who also served in the U.S. Marine Corps. I don't give a shit about that. He was an underminer for the FBI, and everything upon him was politically biased. The FBI is nothing more than the weaponized arm of the DNC and leftist, a corrupt anti-American organization. And only now is it, since Mueller took it way over the top, then Comey, then Wray, Kash Patel has such a huge job in front of him. Well, this is a happy story because things are starting to occur. So let's not go completely crazy just yet, because Bondi hasn't proffered all of the Epstein papers just yet. This fuckstick, James Dennehy was one of the ones that was obscuring and obstructing the release of said paperwork. He's out of the way. There are many more assholes to go besides him. Here's another happy story. Major Panama Canal ports are now under American control. This is from Trending Politics. The inside information to this is stop. China's economy is bad. And China controlled 2 ports at the far, let's see, let me orient my map in my brain, at the northern portion and the southern portion. And it turns out a couple of ports in between, which they sold. Well, to whom did they sell? Who has the wherewithal and the cash to be able to buy this? Well, if you said BlackRock, you'd be correct. However, would you rather have one of the biggest choke points on the entire planet under control of BlackRock or the Communist Chinese? I think at this point, I'd rather have BlackRock. So I quantified that as a happy story as well. And since I'm not going to go out of this because who knows how my video stuff is going. It just gets better. Trump set to announce a $100 billion investment from a Taiwanese company. An investment into the U.S., a chip manufacturer, is going to invest $100 billion in the United States. A White House official confirmed this report to Breitbart News. Now, what's one of the major motivations of the Chinese to take Taiwan, other than the fact that Taiwan has been officially recognized? And Taiwan, like Russia and Putin, Taiwan wants to get the band back together. Will they be able to get the band back together? Now, let me go back a little bit. I wonder how much the dig-in Dennehy destroyed of the Epstein files. That's an excellent question. I'm not sure we will ever know. The Southern District of New York had them. Why? They knew about him and Comey's daughter in the Southern District of New York as well. Yes, they did. Now, Cheetah indicates, I'm on the fence with Bondi at this point. I respect her a lot, but she's become more of a political animal than a top prosecutor over the years. Okay. Let's give her a chance, because she's fighting things that let me make an analysis or a comparison. Now, let me go to the second one here. The FBI under cash raiding the FBI in office, etc. And Jeremy Hansen says, didn't he also lose Biden's laptop? I wish I could tell you. I don't know. Will we ever know? I honestly don't know that. Well, Cheetah said, we need the FBI to raid the FBI. And I said in reply to that last week, what do you do then if leftists don't comply? Make no mistake, a good portion of the FBI, at least up on the 7th floor and down by 6, is comprised of leftists. So what happens if you don't get what you want? For example, what do? Do you send in FBI's own HRT to get that? Do you send in the 101st Airborne to get that? It hasn't yet gotten to that point. But what happens if? All good questions. In any event, go back to Taiwan. If Taiwan manages to, for itself, offshore a good portion of chip manufacturing into the United States, does that not make Taiwan not exactly the biggest target that they were before? Because China would love to snag and snatch their massive chip making capabilities, which unfortunately we ceded to China some time ago. But if they come here, they're not going to be touched. Certainly not in the United States. So I'm kind of in a wait and see dog paddling status at this point. Here's another one. There's another happy story. Honda moving the Civic production from Mexico to Indiana because of tariffs. Tariffs are a tool. Donald Trump is using tariffs as a tool. So when everyone is breastbeating and people are saying, oh, Bondi isn't worth a shit, stop. Just stop. Give people a chance. It's not even 2 months. Now, if it turns out that they're abject losers, okay, fine, do as you will. And Trump primarily will. I don't think we have any doubt about that. But before we go over the top, let's try to make sure that we have a pretty good idea as to what's happening and where and for what reasons. Oh my God, there's some mistake. I actually got through some, but not all, of my happy stories. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thanks for listening to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show. I am the aforementioned BZ, live and direct from the SHR, the Northern SHR Media Studio. On Rumble, on the SHR Media YouTube channel, on the SHR Media group, on Rumble, on X, at KLRN, Rick Robertson's live, great KLRN. They're grabbing the numbers, but they're not grabbing us in the glottis, so I'm super glad about that. And folks, I also want to let you know that as per normal, this hasn't changed. My technology has apparently screwed me over, but this hasn't. Promotional consideration by the Lockheed Martin Skunk Works, Shure, and Electro Voice microphones. These are the dudes that make my board. Also, kudos to Pratt & Whitney engines, making dependable engines thrust you can trust. Tiaras are by My Little Pony. And also, I want to thank my personal KC-135 Kettle One refueling team, with whom I shall be consorting in less than about 10 minutes, just a couple of feet that way. Thanks for listening live. Thanks for listening in podcast. God bless. Take care. Be safe.
Get some sleep. Good night, everybody. Good night, Mama. Good night, Ben. Good night, everyone. Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy. Good night, children. Good night, Daddy. Good night, Elizabeth. Good night, John Boy. Good night, Tim Bob. Good night, Tim Bob. Good night, Tim Bob. What's going on? I was asleep. What's everybody doing? Good night, Tim Bob.
Good night, and good luck.